Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tip Today on this very wet morning again. So if you are setting out on the road, just once again I would advise you to be careful because there's a lot of flooding on the roads out there. 1800 938 007, that's our free phone number. It won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us, and Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, a call for new legislation around e-scooters. Ross Gray, caterer, will speak to us on the school meals conversation. The public house experience, we'll be hearing from publican TJ McInerney on that. More on dancehall days. The Crime Prevention Officer John McCormack will be with us live in studio, and we'll be hearing from psychotherapist Karl Melvin, who will talk to us about family estrangement in light of the whole Beckham controversy. And the story of Ireland continues on with John G. O'Dwyer in the final hour of the programme. So all of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers. Now it's Wednesday, so the local papers are on your shelves. The front page of the Nina Guardian, their lead story there with Simon O'Duffy indeed, telling us that Tipperary County Council will be adding more than 100 properties to the derelict sites register this year as part of a tougher stance on vacant and derelict buildings in the town. The Tipperary Star, the lead story on the Star, Tipperary pub committed to serving €5 Guinness despite price increases from Diageo. And the Nationalist, their headline, a miracle, heroic grandparents rushed to save 4-month-old granddaughter after a freak house fire broke out, and the community rallies around Tipperary family with a fundraiser for them as well. And a lovely piece inside the Nationalist paying homage to a much-loved parish priest, the great Father Jim Egan, who passed away. And, of course, he was PP of Knockavilla Donaghskee just before he got ill, and for a number of years before he got ill. And lovely fella, had great old times with him, and lovely memories of him. Let's have a look at the national papers then. The Irish Daily Mail, the lead story on the Mail today. I'd love your opinion on this. Gardaí are to be given new powers to spy on mobile phones to monitor criminals' activity, and new legislation will allow the force to use controversial software to gain access to encrypted messaging services such as WhatsApp. Now, as you can imagine, some groups are rather alarmed about the potential abuse of this, and maybe use against members of the public as well. The Irish Council for Civil Liberties saying it has very serious concerns about this shopping list of surveillance powers, as they put it. So again, we'd love your opinion on that. The Irish Indo, patient safety is at risk due to a range of ongoing failures in how Dublin's children's hospitals are run, a new watchdog report warns. Now it highlights how some doctors are afraid to report clinical mistakes, can you believe, amid fears of career repercussions, and also how bullying is ongoing at one hospital. Now, take into account that that's at the existing children's hospitals, and you'd wonder then if you transfer that to the new children's hospital that we're expecting, and how that will work out with HR and staffing and all of that kind of thing. The Irish Times, lead story on the Times today, is dominated by a rather remarkable photograph of the French President Emmanuel Macron at the World Economic Forum in Davos. He looks more like a rock star than the leader of a country in the photograph. But anyway, the US President Donald Trump, of course, has been accused by the French President of trying to subordinate Europe in his pursuit of Greenland. And leaders of several European Union states are preparing to mount a diplomatic blitz over the next 48 hours to convince the US President to retract his threats to levy French trade tariffs on countries opposing his plans to buy Greenland, of course, which is a Danish territory. But there's an interesting one on the Times today, and I'm trying to get my head around this. And obviously we'll end up blaming social media for it, but almost 1 in 10 Irish people aged between 18 and 29 believe the Holocaust is a myth, while 19% in this age group believe it happened, but that its scale has been greatly exaggerated, according to a survey. What do you make of that? If you'd like to get in contact with us, it's 083 311 3311. Now, at the January meeting of Tipperary County Council, Fianna Fáil Councillor JP O'Meara tabled a motion that the council should write to Transport Minister Darragh O'Brien, asking about, indeed seeking the introduction of mandatory high-vis jacket wearing for all e-scooter users in an attempt to make the roads safer for all. And Councillor JP O'Meara joins me now. JP, good morning to you.
Morning, Fran. Good morning to your listeners. Thanks for having me on, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, and many happy returns to you indeed. I gather you've witnessed some near misses with these e-scooters yourself, JP.
I did indeed, Fran. Just around the town in Nina there, November and December, just had a near miss myself a couple of times, and I just witnessing with the speed and the silence that the scooters are travelling at, next to impossible to see them, especially with individuals dressed in all black clothing as well. So I just feel that a high visibility vest would increase the safety for both the user and pedestrians in particular. It'd be awful to see someone stepping off a footpath in one of those and getting badly injured, you know.
What is the current laws around e-scooters? What's mandatory for them?
They're not mandatory. They're treated the same as cyclists, so they're only advised to wear safety wear such as either helmets or high visibility vests. So again, they're not obliged to, they're only advised to, same as cyclists.
What reaction did you get from your fellow councillors where this is concerned, JP?
Well, it was very positive. First at the Nina Municipal District meeting in December, and then last week at the plenary meeting in Nina also, because I think nearly everybody has had their own experiences as regards e-scooter and e-scooter users. So it was a positive reaction all around as regards the proposal.
Now, sadly, over the last while, we've been hearing about people being killed off these scooters as well.
Yeah, and head injuries and people being treated in ICU for head injuries is on the rise as well. So there have been a number of fatalities, unfortunately, on the roads with e-scooter users, sadly.
Now, it did emerge at the meeting and on other platforms as well. This is all very well, even if you got the legislation through, JP. I mean, how do you enforce these rules?
Yeah, well, look, it'll be up to the Gardaí to enforce the rules, and I know that Gardaí are fully stretched at the moment, but I feel, Fran, that most people are law-abiding citizens. You have individuals that want to break the law, but policing and all this starts at home, so parents need to take on responsibility as regards letting their children out on the roads. If they're under 16, they need to really take a long look at it, because they're not supposed to be on e-scooters. And as regards visibility is a fundamental aspect of road safety, and it needs to be instilled in all road users from a very, very young age. So the parents have a responsibility here, Fran, with this, I feel, not just the Gardaí.
Yeah, now I'm in agreement with you that some legislation is needed, because I've seen some just really, really awful stuff on the roads myself where this is concerned. But I would put the helmets even ahead of the high vis. I can't understand why people are on these things without helmets, JP. Yeah.
That's true. That's true, Fran. Yeah, there probably will be changes in legislation. I imagine I would like to see definitely the high vis and helmets introduced as mandatory.
Now, the motion was passed, so you will be. Have you written to, or are you about to write to the minister on this?
Well, Tipperary County Council will write to the Minister for Transport, Darragh O'Brien, and also the Minister for Road Safety, Sean Kenny. And
I guess you're expecting a positive where this is concerned.
Well, there has been some rumblings as regards. They definitely are looking at the legislation as it is. So, like as I said, I proposed this back in early December, and there was some talk there over the last couple of weeks that the ministers involved were looking at the legislation.
When you look to other jurisdictions, I know there was a lot of trouble about e-scooters in France, in particular in Paris. When you look to other jurisdictions, do they have legislation in place, do you know, JP?
Some countries do, Fran. I know Spain does in particular. And some countries have gone as far as you have to have the e-scooter taxed and insured.
All right. Is that a road you'd like to go down eventually?
I don't know, Fran. Just for now, I think the safety measures are badly needed. Because we need to instill these safety with youngsters when they're going out on the road for the first time. Because in a few years' time, they'll be looking to start driving, and it'd be very hard to correct bad habits at that stage. So I think the safety measures are badly needed as a start.
One of our listeners making the point, I'm sure you'd have no problem agreeing with the listener, that all walkers on the roads as well should have high-vis jackets.
Yeah.
And, you see this morning on the roads, where it's dark, it's wet. It's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd advise all road users, whether they're cyclists, pedestrians, e-scooter users, to be wearing a high visibility vest, especially in the winter months, just to improve the safety for themselves and everybody else on the road. All
right. I know you want to wish Nina CBS the very best of luck.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nina CBS there for the Hearts Cup final next Saturday week. So just wish them all the very best against St. Flannan's.
All right. Well, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time this morning, JP. Thank you. Good morning to you.
Thank you. That's
Cllr JP O'Meara, Fianna Fáil there, speaking to us about that motion that he tabled about high-vis jacket wearing where e-scooter riders are concerned. What do you make of that? What about your experience of e-scooters? Every time we bring this up, we hear some horrific stories indeed from our listeners on this. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
I mentioned that piece on the front of the Mail today. Powers for Gardaí to spy on phones is the headline there, but they're talking about new powers to spy on mobile phones to monitor criminals' activity. And one of our listeners on to say only low-level criminals use the likes of WhatsApp. They all use specialised phones or the equivalent or EncroChat. I'm not across very much of that, but thank you for that indeed. And a lot of people onto us on that. So we will get back to it. That's the new powers for Gardaí to spy on phones. Now, I'm not sure, because I only glanced through the article, what permission would be needed for Gardaí to do that. Would it require a judge's permission or something? I'm not sure. We'll see if we can find out more. Fine Gael has recently launched a national survey on the Hot School Meals programme to gather the views of parents and teachers on how the scheme has operated in recent years and how it could be improved. Now, yesterday, you might remember, we spoke to Senator Linda Nelson-Murray, who is leading the initiative. The Senator described the programme as a major success. However, on Monday, we also heard from John McGurk of Gript, who wrote an opinion piece arguing that the school meals scheme is too costly and there's a lot of waste attached to it. Now, Bernie Teehan from Creative Catering in Rossgrey was in touch and joins me now. Bernie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran. How are you? And good morning to all the listeners throughout the county and the Midlands.
Well, lovely to talk to you, Bernie, and thanks for your time this morning. You have lots of experience of catering and even catering in a primary school at one stage, Bernie. What do you make of the scheme?
Fran, I have over 40 years' experience of catering, and I spent 8 years catering in a local primary school in Rossgrey. I must say it went very, very well. It was super because we only did the one school. We prepared and cooked the food at home in our HSC registered unit, and we delivered food within about 8 minutes to the school. On arrival at the school, we took a temperature check of the food, and the food was piping hot. And I think this is a fundamental problem at the moment, that the food has been delivered to the schools at, I'm being told, 10, half 10, 11 in the morning. It's not possible to keep it hot until half 12. And that affects the presentation of the school, of the food. Because if you serve with, say, a chicken curry, put it into a container, at 10 o'clock, delivered at 10:30. There's a scum on the top of that. So ultimately, the presentation of the food is damaged straight away.
So the kids could easily be put off eating that then, because it looks poor. Yeah.
You wouldn't put food out to the dog at 10 o'clock and expect the dog to eat it at 12:30. I certainly wouldn't anyway.
So you were in close proximity to the school and you were able to deliver it in a short time. Is part of the issue then that some of these meals are coming a distance to the schools?
It is, and I think some of the providers who I'm very friendly with, all of them, and I actually chose to give up the schools myself because I'm so busy with the other end of business that, like for instance, today I'm doing my third funeral this week. So I really couldn't fit in schools as well. And that's where you have to prioritise, which is more important. I don't want to be working every single day. So I give up the schools for that reason. And I think the numbers are too big for some providers. They cannot get the food of a service at a top quality. Very important that the food is delivered at the correct temperature when it's dropped to the school. And that is piping hot. How
did you find them? Because, we hear all the time that kids in school, well, kids in general, that they're picky about their food. And then some kids has particularly difficult dietary issues and the like. What did you find when you were supplying food to primary school?
Well, 90% of the children ate everything, such as, we'll say an example, shepherd's pie, lasagna, beef casserole. Children nowadays don't really eat that. Now, we always brought 90% of the same food and we brought 10% of something else, such as maybe very plain goujons, uncrumbed. And they would go to the people who would have, we'll say, gluten-free diet requirements or dairy-free or anything. They were just plain chicken, cooked, roasted in the oven, seasoned with salt and pepper, nothing else on them.
But that would be still nutritional goujons as opposed to maybe some of the other stuff that we see.
Well, I'm not talking about buying goujons in. I'm talking about getting chicken fillets at home, buying them in the butchers and cutting them and roasting them in the oven. So they're not some processed food. They're 100% chicken fillet.
So proper chicken.
Absolutely, and that's what people need. But I do know we used to have a treat on a Friday if they were very good all week and if they ate their dinner every day, which I must say they did, and some came back for more.
Yeah.
And I gave them a treat on a Friday, which would be a homemade goujon and homemade wedges. And then I always gave them maybe a chocolate brownie or something homemade as well. Everything was homemade from scratch.
It sounds delicious. I'm starving here thinking about this, Bernie.
If I was near Clonmel, I'd drop you in something, Fran.
That's very kind of you indeed. When you hear about almost 300 million being spent this year on the school meals, could it be spent better, do you think, Bernie?
I think it could be spent in a better way. And like some schools, they're deprived and they do need extra funding. So I do think, and like most country children in particular, I'm a country girl myself at heart, those children would have a breakfast going to school and would have come home to a proper dinner. But I don't know if it warrants every child in the country. Maybe food vouchers would be a better value, we'll say, for the families.
And how would that work? I know that's the situation in America, I think. How does that actually work, the food voucher?
Well, it's like my friends in Racket Hall, these people who don't want to be here, but they're lucky to be living in Racket Hall and they appreciate it so much. I would be friendly with some of them, and they tell me they get vouchers every week for their families, and they just go into a local supermarket and they pick out what they want and hand in their voucher. So the same thing could work for schools if the parents obviously got the correct food, even fresh rolls and ham or chicken. You know, parents cook a chicken at home, make lovely fresh rolls the next day for school. Beautiful.
Now, of course,
they may not all need it. They may not all need a dinner in school if they're coming home to a dinner. And I do know there's a huge amount of waste.
Yeah, no.
I listen to it every day.
Sadly, I suppose in some homes there mightn't be whatever dynamic is in the home. There mightn't be proper meals being made for children. I suppose you're taking that into account as well, Bernie, are you?
I am, absolutely, but they would benefit from the vouchers as well. Well, look, I have dealt with people from all societies of life, and there's quite a lot of addiction out there, as you know, Fran, from your job. And those children really do appreciate, and they come to school hungry. People will tell you they come to school hungry. But then in the schools nowadays, there's breakfast clubs, and it's very good, like what's been offered to children. And it's lovely if it's appreciated and it's used, but it's just so sad to see so much food wasted.
Yeah, and one of the principals who spoke to John McGurk estimated the waste at 30%. Now, I was trying to do my sums on the 300 million, and, you know, that would mean about 90 million euro per year is waste.
A huge amount of food, and then it has to be taken away from the school, and there's problems then discarding of it, and you know yourself.
And the packaging of it, I guess.
Packaging cost, additional cost on businesses.
Yeah, so you think there would be better ways to spend?
I think there is.
Money.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I'm sure the government they tried it and it hasn't really worked out.
Yeah, and there's that scheme now by Fine Gael where they're putting it out to people to ask opinions about it. But already it seemed to me that Senator Nelson Murray had made up her mind that this is a good thing. It's been a huge success, she says.
Well, she's in government. Fine Gael are in government with the coalition, and I heard her on your show yesterday. She really pushed it and promoted it, but I don't think that's the reality. The reality is that there is waste, and a lot of waste, and a lot of children, and parents will tell you, it's coming home and like cement in the little container because it's sitting there too long. And that's what I started off saying. The fundamental presentation of food is to have it piping hot and have it I used to have it at 80 degrees.
Yeah, there's somebody else on to me now telling me, and they're mentioning a particular school that I won't mention, but they're saying they see the food being dropped off at 6 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be aware of that in some cases, would you, Bernie?
Well, I've heard of it. I don't know how to get away with it, Fran, really, because, I mean, if the food is cooked that morning, sure, it must be cooked at 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe cooked the night before. And if it is it refrigerated properly? This is where we go back to the HACCP regulations again. It should be stored, if it's refrigerated, it should be stored under 5 degrees. And it should be, when it's reheated then or cooked, it should be brought up to, 75 would be the limit. But I always bring mine up to 80 just to make sure, because you have to consider your transport and your time. You can be delayed on the road and the temperature drops a few degrees.
Yeah, John McGurk, he made another interesting point, though, and he said that you know, even if a politician had issues with this or questions around this, that they'd be careful about putting their head above the parapet, because it might be deemed that they're against the notion of feeding hungry children. But I mean, it's fair to question the spend, is it not?
Oh, absolutely, and we're taxpayers. You know, we don't want this type of waste money, because it can be spent in better ways. Surely to God, our hospitals and the medical system need lots of funding, and the schools as well. Yeah. I'm sure they have a better way of spending it.
Yeah,
it's a shame to see it wasted.
Isn't it just? It really is. And again, you see, I see two sides to this, Bernie. The senator is saying to me yesterday that it's nice that kids sit side by side to eat these meals, and the spotlight is on no kid then, even if they desperately need the food, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Oh, I can see that. There's a community spirit in the classroom, and they sit and they chat, just as adults would. If you go out with a group, you sit and chat, and some will like what's on the menu, others won't. It is definitely, and it's actually good training for them, that they have to sit while they're eating. And if they're not eating, then I'm sure it's just left aside. Like the idea of that in the school, or should the schools have a kitchen area and a canteen area where everybody gathers for their meals? It's questionable, but I know that would be a huge cost on the schools, particularly the older ones.
Yeah, there's other people onto us to say that they've seen trucks the night before delivering food. So
I've heard that, and I see them myself on the road. I just don't know how to get away with it.
Yeah.
I would be so afraid. Anything I ever cook is cooked that morning. If it means getting up at 4 o'clock, I cook my turkeys and my beef like for today. Cooked early this morning and served today then at 12:30. And that's it, gone. Nothing carried over, nothing left, nothing wasted. If there was anything left, family take it home. No way.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see or hear the result of this national survey that's happening around this now. But as I said, the Senator has her mind made up that from what she's hearing, it's been a big success. How's the catering business going for you, Bernie?
Very well, friend. Thank you, and thanks be to God it's going well. I was actually a catering manager in Cistercian College in Roscrea for 20 years.
Right.
And in 2015, 9 of us were made redundant.
Yeah.
So I drove out the gate that day and I went straight to Colton's in Tullamore. I bought a van without having anything. And I said, I'm going to start my own business. And I have never looked back. The only problem is it's too consuming. We work Christmas Day as well.
Wow.
As an example. Christmas Day, Easter, Sunday, all the days when people are off, bank holidays, we work every day.
And you're catering for what? Like corporate situations and...
Yeah, corporate business, a lot of businesses, funerals, communions, confirmations, gatherings. There's functions every weekend. Fishing events, hurling, camogie, dropping food to teams after matches. I'm trying to think now, what have we? We have 380 this weekend, and just busy the whole time. But we're fully booked until next Monday.
So everything from sandwiches to full 3-4 course meals, I guess, is it?
Oh yeah, everything. Oh, absolutely, everything. Sandwiches. We say a lot of funerals now. It's refreshments, which would be sandwiches, homemade treats, and soup.
Yeah.
Or we would have, we'll say, wet dishes such as chicken curry, beef casserole. With the potatoes and the rice, homemade desserts, everything. Dinner, full dinner as well. Nighttime gatherings, 21st in pubs at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night when everybody else has their feet up. We're still working.
But isn't it fantastic that it's such a success, Bernie?
Well, it's a small business like Roscrea, as everybody knows. It's a poor town now, and it really is. There's 2 big funerals in the Roscrea area today, and we've no hotel. It's very sad. It really is. People have to go to Bar or Templemore or somewhere else to get bed and breakfast or to book into a hotel. It's very sad. So, I mean, this is, I suppose, after COVID, we were very busy even during COVID. On a small scale, we'll say, dropping... There were still funerals, and I know they were very small, but we still dropped food in advance of meeting the family. We never met anybody. But we would have had a meal ready when they got home.
Well, see, I mean, I know it's your own business, but it's an incredible commitment as well as everything else. You've been doing this a long time, and I'm really intrigued to know, Bernie, because I believe our palates have changed drastically in the last 20 years or so in terms of what we expect by way of food. Would you go along with that?
I would, and I think our the way we sit and have a family meal has really gone. Like in my house here, every Sunday the family sit down together, but it's the only time we get to sit together, sadly. And there's very food, we're surrounded by very food every day. The only day I insist is that we sit together at that, and whoever's away comes home. And it's for those 2 hours, we just get to exchange chats and what's happening in different houses over the previous week. Very important. The dynamic of eating has changed, and people are eating on the go. The delis are flat out.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, long may your success continue, Bernie, and lovely to talk to you today. And thanks very much for coming on with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, friend. Thanks very much, and keep up the good work. You're doing a fantastic job.
You're very kind, Bernie.
We love you on the radio. Thanks, friend.
Thanks, Bernie. Thank you. That's Bernie Teehan there from Creative Catering in Roscrea. It's great to hear that the business is doing so well. We'll take a break. Back with more.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp Today on 1-800-938-007.
Frank says, while food cooked in a catering facility can be great quality, how can it be described as home cooked? My understanding of home cooked food is food cooked in the home. Well, you see, my understanding of that, Frank, is that some catering businesses would buy in food and would buy in food that is heated up and the like, whereas what Bernie was talking about was that they make their own from scratch. That's certainly my understanding of it, and that would be described, I suppose, as home cooked, in other words, cooked from scratch. Listen, around to say, at the end of the day, Fran, the school meals is important to have. My ex was well off. The family had a few houses, a new car every year, etc. She never had a lunch made for her growing up, or a dinner when she came home. On top of that, regardless of whether the children eat the food or not, it may plant a seed in their heads of what is good food in later years. So that's kind of an interesting one. In to us, 1800 938 007. Trish says, great to hear Bernie on the radio and to know that she's doing so well. I worked with Bernie in Roscrea, fantastic lady. 083 311 3311. Now on Monday, my friend Gay Brazel joined me in studio and we kicked off a conversation about show bands and dance halls and all of that kind of thing, and huge reaction to it, and I spoke to Mary Gordon on the programme yesterday as well. Conor O'Donovan joins me now. Good morning to you, Conor.
Good morning, friend. Thank you very much for having me on.
Good to talk to you, Conor. You have some great memories of the band Tweed, of which Gay was part, of course.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, friend, just let me apologise. I have a heavy head cold at the minute, so I'm sounding a bit rough, a bit hoarse and that, so I hope I sound okay.
You sound fine. Not a bother on you, Conor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I heard briefly there your conversation with Gay, and I just thought I'd send in a message just to say I had heard Tweed in the Majestic Ballroom in Mallow back in the late 70s, and they were really very good. I'd never heard of them before, but they were excellent, you know. But if I could just elaborate a small bit more,
sure.
Frank.
Sure.
Like, okay, I originally come from a rural parish in South Limerick called Effin. And I don't know if you're familiar with it at all.
I know it well. Yes, I do, of course.
Okay, so we had a family-run pub and grocery shop business in Effin. And during the 1960s and the 1970s, the parish hall, that was the local, the Canon Hayes Memorial Hall in Effin, it was a mecca for show band dances. Many of the show bands from all over the country would have played there. Like there were dances there every fortnight on a Wednesday night throughout most of the year, with the exception, would you believe it, of Lent, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And like many bands would have played in Effin during that year, such like all the big bands would say, Brendan Shine, Larry Cunningham, Joe Dolan and the Drifters, Big Tom and the Mainliners, and even Gina Dale Hayes and the Champions played there in their early years, before they got really big, you know?
Yeah.
And who, Tommy Drennan and the Monarchs, Sean O'Dowd and Dingaling and Dennis Allen and his band. And if memory serves me right, now you can might be able to fill in one or two of the blanks there for me, Frank. But those three would have played together, wouldn't they, in the Monarchs?
They did indeed. Dennis was the lead guitar player with Sean O'Dowd as well, and that's when he wrote Limerick You're a Lady. He had a big hit with that, of course, and he went out on his own then as a solo artist.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Like other bands who would have played there, like would be Morris O'Brien or Morris Mulcahy, Brendan O'Brien, the Cotton Mill Boys, and actually, would you believe? The Cotton Mill Boys are a record. Like so this was your regular parish hall, all right. So, but the records have it that in 1974. Up to 1,500 people paid for entry, and that was the biggest crowd on record.
Wow.
You know, It was amazing, you know. And another band who played there, would you believe, was the Dubliners. Now,
did they?
And they did. And I think it was Mick Hanley. So somebody Hanley would have played with them in the same night as well. I just remember that distinctly, all right? Okay?
Yeah.
And can I tell you a quick story about Ronnie Bruce and the Dubliners on that night?
Of course you can. Yes, Conor.
Okay. So there was many a night that some members of the various bands would call into our pub for a drink or two, before the dance was due to start.
Yeah.
And then they'd head off back to the hall in time for the 12 midnight start, right?
Yes.
So a few of the Dubliners called in for a drink that night that they were playing. And I mentioned earlier that we had a grocery shop as well, right?
Yes.
And like where we stocked, basic groceries such as bread, butter, milk, cigarettes, fruit and veg, all that stuff, we'll say, right? And the vegetables used to be stocked in bags on the shop floor outside the counter. So the Dubliners were actually having their drinks in the shop, not in the pubs. They were having a quiet drink, so they were having it in the shop. And just as they were about to leave, Ronnie Drew reached into the bag of onions that was on the floor, and he picked out an onion, and without peeling off the outer layer, he proceeded to eat it raw, like it was an apple.
God
and then
almighty.
waved goodbye to everybody and walked out the door without paying for it. Okay? So like to this day, when we have a family gathering, it's a story that's recounted with great fun, especially remembering the look on my late father Patty's face. What he just witnessed from Ronnie Drew.
What a fabulous story indeed. And of course, you brought up something that I had forgotten all about, is that sometimes when the show bands were playing, they would have had a guest, like a ballad group, like the Dubliners, or like Danny Doyle or Johnny McAvoy, who would do the ballad thing as well. You're right. I had forgotten all about that.
Well, like my understanding, my memory of it, that particular night, friend, was that the Dubliners were the main act.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
But you're right. Like they would have had relief acts on beforehand.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe the relief act might come on maybe 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, because the dance itself would start at 12 midnight.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what would happen is the band would come good and early and get set up. And the various committee members in Effin, like the late Claire Maher and Mary Ellen Cotter, they would make a meal for the band. Okay, so they'd have their meal in the local hall early in the evening, and then they head off to, someplace like our pub for a drink and that, and then they'll be back in time for the dance to start at 12 midnight, And would you believe the first dance that I attended was in January 1975, and I was in my early teens, okay,
yes.
and the band was Brian Harkin and the Plainsmen. Now, you will recall, I imagine, that there used to be 3 songs per set.
Yes.
And each set was either, a slow waltz or a jive.
Yeah.
And the one song that I particularly recalled from that night was a slow waltz called Where My Eileen Is Waiting for Me.
Oh, yeah.
And coincidentally, the girl I was dancing with to that song, her name was Eileen. Would you believe?
Are you serious? Are you serious? And was that a hit for them? Because I don't remember them. It's probably a little before my time now, but I remember the song. Was that their song?
No, it's not. I know I would have looked it up years ago and just associated with somebody else, but not with them. But like a lot of the bands back then would have been playing covers of songs.
Of course,
yeah. But it's just that the girl I was dancing with was Eileen. The girl called
I
Eileen.
love it.
That's my difference.
Did you have a favourite band, an overall favourite band?
I myself, no, that's a very good. To me, they were all excellent bands, like like they were there in the 1960s and throughout the 70s. So a lot of the big bands would have played in the 60s. I'd have been too young to go there, right?
Yeah.
But actually, would you believe it? One of the bands that played there would have been the Miami.
Wow.
If you remember the late Fran O'Toole, and that would have been playing with them.
Yeah.
But look, there were some major bands that were very, very popular. Big Tom and the Mainliners, Brendan Shine, and the local bands, if you like, from Limerick that time, Tommy Drennan, and as I say, Sean O'Dowd and Dennis Allen. They were always very, very popular and brought a good crowd. But the really big pulls, of course, would have been, as I say, Big Tom, Joe Dolan, and Gina the Champions before they got big. But they were all top-class bands.
They were all fantastic. And, you brought up the whole business of Lent there, where the bands wouldn't play. They weren't allowed to play. And they all headed off to the UK and America during Lent because they'd be able to play gigs at that point.
Right. Oh, you're right. You're right. That's coming back to me now.
Yeah.
Actually, my two sisters, my older sister Mary and Lucia, recounted to me one of the nights that Brendan Shine and his band was playing in Effin, right?
Yes.
So for Mary, it was her first ever dance, which she was very excited about, and she has very fond memories of. Okay.
Yes.
No, but Sister Lucia, though, she has a different memory, and she recalls how Brendan was in the pub this night before the dance with a few of the members of the band.
Yeah.
And she noticed that Brendan was wearing a very expensive-looking watch. Okay?
Yes.
And coincidentally, would you believe, Brendan Shine was also performing on a recorded music show on RTE television at the very same time that he was in the pub. Okay?
Yes.
and Lucia found herself, desperately trying to see if the watch he was wearing on the telly was the same watch that he was wearing while in the pub. Well, she wasn't ever able to conclusively say one way or the other, however, but it's a fun memory.
For sure. Conor, they're excellent memories, and thank you so much for sharing with us, Conor. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Fran. Thank you very much for having me on, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, and good morning to you. It's Conor O'Donovan speaking to us there about the ballroom in Effin in Limerick. I didn't know about that. It wasn't on my radar. Somebody reminding me that Where My Eileen is Waiting for Me was a Johnny McAvoy song. Was it indeed? I remember even the lyric of it, if I think about it. Always light-hearted and easy, something like that, isn't it? You might like to share with us on that. All right, let's go to Mary. Good morning to you, Mary.
Good morning, Fran.
Good to talk to you, Mary. You met your husband at a dance.
I did in Dundrum.
In Dundrum?
Yes.
In the Golden Vale?
In the Golden Vale, Dundrum, and he made a date with me, right, to meet me the next Friday night in Dundrum. Unfortunately, I landed up in hospital for 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh. So what happened, Mary?
My hip was at me, and for exercise and all that. So I went back to Dundrum after 4 weeks with the bus, a mini bus we used to go to from Doon to Cappaway to Dundrum, and same to Dunkin. But I went to Dundrum that night, and there he was again.
And what did he say to you about standing him up?
He said, "What happened, Joe?" I said, "I ended up in hospital. If you don't believe me, ask them there."
And how soon after did you start to go out together then?
We started going out together then, and we were going out together for about 3 years, and then we got engaged. And another 3 years we waited until we had our house built, and we got married. We celebrated our 40th anniversary there 3 years ago.
Ah, fantastic.
And he died 4 months later.
Oh, did he indeed?
Yeah,
oh my
cancer.
God. So
4 years coming up in March now.
Oh, I'm
2
sorry
days
to hear
after
it,
his
Mary.
birthday.
Oh, God almighty. Isn't that heartbreaking for you?
Yeah. Well, we had a great night the night of our 40th, though.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the show bands over the last few days and the dance halls, it obviously brings you back loads of memories.
Oh, it
Mary.
does. It did, yeah, because we used to go to Dundrum or Dunkeen. We'd see which was the best band.
Right. And who did you follow? Who did you prefer?
We used to go to Joe Dole and the Gina Jane Hayes and the Champions and all them.
Yeah. Did you go on New Year's Eve to the...
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the
And
big
we went
night,
to-
wasn't it? In the
Yeah,
Golden
and we
Bell.
And we went to Rare Cross.
Oh,
On Christmas night, there was a dance in Rare Cross.
was there indeed?
I got him coming up from Cllr to me.
Say that again, Mary?
He came up from Cllr to Doon to take me to Rare Cross on Christmas night.
The glamour of it all. The glamour of it all. Isn't it great?
Yeah.
And after you got married, did you continue to go dancing?
We did for a while. But now, then he started going social dance, and I stayed at home, minding the kids.
Very good indeed. And do you dance now at all, Mary? Do you?
No. I'd see you in Glen Eagle. You're always there when we're there.
Oh, you said, God, you must come up and say hello. Have we spoken?
You were down there in October.
Yeah, we're there kind of every second week or so, or every third week.
Yeah, you were down there now in October. We were down there, a group of us from Cllr. The Cllr Centre.
Very good indeed. I hope you had a good night down there at least, Mary.
Oh, yeah, we enjoyed it. We Brendan Shine and all down there with us that weekend.
It's terrific, yeah. It's a great spot for entertainment.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Now.
And, besides the likes of the Glen Eagle, a lot of the younger people don't realise about those, how good those days were in the dance halls. And
they were brilliant. Yeah. We went off another night, off for a day, and we ended up in Ballina at the Marquee. Myself and another couple.
Did you like the Marquees?
Oh, it was lovely. The toilets were lovely. That still sticks in my head, the toilet.
What toilet, says you?
In the marquees. Yeah, there was a hole in the ground.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my friend came out. She said, I'm not going there.
Literally, there was a hole in the ground, Mary. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, yeah.
And
Or
you,
else out behind the ditch.
I know. And you and all your finery and your good clothes and your.
Yeah. But that was a laugh that night.
It must have been indeed. And where did you say that was? Ballina, was it?
Up in Ballina, Cllr way.
Ballina.
You know where the hotel was now? There's a big field there.
Sure, I do. Of course, I do. Yeah.
That's where that's where it was.
Can you remember who was playing?
I cannot remember that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it must have been a good band to say we went that far.
It must have been indeed. But you were a big Joe Dolan fan.
Oh, yeah, we used to always go to him.
Yeah. He was amazing, wasn't he?
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. The master of it all, for sure. Yeah. And was it 4 years ago you said you lost your husband, Mary?
Yes, just coming up on 4 now.
Yeah. So it's been a tough few years for you.
Oh, it was now. Like Christmas this year was my bad time now because I was away every other Christmas.
So you were at home this Christmas, weren't you?
Yes, with my family here.
Yeah, and you know, no matter how many years go by, Mary, it's still a milestone, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Well, Mary, we wish you well, and thank you for sharing those stories. I'm still smiling here at the idea of the hole in the ground up in Ballina. That's the part.
And a timber seat across it.
The luxury of it all, isn't it great? All right, Mary.
Imagine you're taking your grandchildren now and telling them.
They wouldn't believe us, Mary. They wouldn't believe us.
I know, and I'd say things to my two, they'd look at me. Granny, you didn't do that.
Well, keep telling them the stories. Mary, thank you and good morning to you.
Okay,
thank you.
Friend.
Thanks,
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that's Mary speaking to us there about her exploits in the dance halls and indeed in the marquees as well. News and information's on the way.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. Just saying to Pat there off air, we're getting great crack out of that row between Elon Musk and Michael O'Leary. There's some wonderful quality insults being thrown from both sides. 1800 938 007. One of our listeners on to say, I recently witnessed a young lad who looked about 12 with another younger person on board racing on the footpath on the Link Road near SuperValu in Tipperary town. No helmets, under 16 and on the footpath. 3 laws broken there. No Gardaí on the beat. So how can laws be implemented, says this listener, obviously from Tipperary town there. Good morning, friend. What happens when some of the school dinners are not opened by the students? Do they have to get thrown out? I don't exactly. I think they're returned to be disposed of. To the best of my knowledge. Listener said, my kids go to Lismachan National School and the food provided every day is top quality. They look forward to it every day and very little waste as the food is so good. Well, fair play, and delighted to hear that as well. B was on to say that in Japan the kids make their own lunches in school and it's done in each class. It's a learning skill, not only learning to cook but interaction with each other as well. Well, that sounds very interesting as well. Martin Brown, former Sinn Féin TD, of course, was on to us from Cashel to say, Fran, the problem with the vouchers is it singles out families who may be struggling to get by. And you know that in those circumstances, children can be very cruel. One of the big problems is the menu, which doesn't reflect what children are eating every day. change this, and in my opinion you would have a larger uptake of children using it, says Martin. I agree with you about the vouchers. I'd feel kind of strange about that, because as you say, it would single out kids, and yeah, kids can be cruel, that's for sure. Okay, what have we got? Great to see you, and this is making reference to Bernie Teehan, who spoke to us about her catering business, and one of our listeners saying that great to see a local business doing so well, especially providing good quality food. It says, all right, 083 311 3311. Now, the price of a pint of Guinness will climb by about 20 cents within weeks after Diageo rolled out an increase that will take effect early next month. Publicans said the price increase would pile yet more pressure on pubs already struggling to survive. It could see some pubs left with no choice but to call time, I suppose, on their businesses for good. And that's according to the Vintners Federation of Ireland, the umbrella group representing hundreds of publicans. But the pub is still very important to our communities. Let's talk about that now. And I'm glad to be joined by publican TJ McInerney of TJ Maxx in Mullinahone. Good morning to you, TJ.
How's Fran?
And great to talk to you today, and thanks for coming on with us. The importance of a pub in a community, TJ. Would you just tease that out for me?
Well, just listening there, Fran, you're talking to Mary there and the passing of her husband and how she met her husband and lifetime memories and how dances she went in the Golden Veil, and I think Mary caught it all there. Really, she got the sentiment there. All of her memories and marriage and how it started, and it's brilliant memories. I worked in the Golden Veil, Fran. It was a brilliant spot. Dundrum and I worked in the Golden Veil 30 years ago. Dundrum was an economic boom.
Yeah.
It was the holy grail. I mean, for a village to be doing what it was doing economically on a social setting was something else.
Thousands of people going there, TJ.
Thousands of people going to employment. Everybody, their kids got summer jobs, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, musicians, and the drinks industry, just the revenue that was generated, the money that the government made out of that village alone was phenomenal.
Yeah, I didn't realise you worked in the Golden Veil.
I did. I worked in the Golden Veil.
Yeah, for Osty and all the family.
I didn't. It was Pat Buckley, actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, so it was later than Osty's business.
It was later. Yeah.
But you're right, it was booming, and it's a shame to see it all sort of blocked up now and all of that kind of thing.
It is. I was at a hurling match in Dundrum there. Was the last year, the year before, and I passed in on the Golden Veil. I looked at it. It was sickening.
Yeah, isn't it just indeed? Tell me about the pub experience, though, because, equally Mary said she met her husband in the pubs. Of course, then everything moved, in the dance halls, everything moved to the pubs. And I'm sure a lot of love stories began in the public houses as well, TJ.
That's it, Fran. I'd say the dancing has been killed by the insurance. I think the disco scene, as I would remember, is all but over. Yeah. In insurance costs, I just thought it move in an upward trajectory and get better, more lights, more this, more that. I just thought, but I think about it all the time. I just can't believe it's over, because it was the Drum King in all these places, and it just progressed over the years and seemed to get better, more progressive, and things changed. But and next thing it came to a stop. The older memories maybe were best. Yeah,
but then you see, there's always the danger here, looking back with rose-tinted glasses as well. Some of the ballrooms, and I'm not mentioning any in particular, but some were kind of just barns. They were often cold, they weren't very comfortable. And then people like yourselves set up comfortable pubs that were warm, with nice lounge bars and all of that. And it was inevitable that people would end up going to those instead.
Well, that's it, man. But all I can tell you about pubs is, if you talk to the average person, memories, the people they met, the times they had, sad occasions, wedding parties. We did a wedding party, and congratulations to Kevin and Vicky Bulger the weekend. We made memories together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're lifelong memories. You'll never forget, your wedding party, your wedding. It's just, we share so much, and sad times when we celebrate, folk heroes of the village, shall we say, people that just, you want to remember, you celebrated their lives in pubs. And I think back of all the people I met in Mullinahone nearly the last 27 years, and fond memories, great friends. Think about them, you know.
And is it true that the pressure is so much on pubs now that there is a struggle to survive?
Well, Fran, everybody can relate to the fact of energy bills and how high they're gone. I feel sorry for people. I mean, there's 300,000 people in energy arrears in Ireland at the minute.
Yes.
I was paying 48 cents a unit there not so long ago, which would equate to €600 a week, which is more than the average mortgage in the country, and on a monthly basis. I was paying that a week.
€600 a week?
4,800 every 2 months. I don't know how I stayed in the game.
Good God. So that's just on energy bill?
I think when you say this, just ESB, I think when you say it flippantly, it doesn't register, but it's real. It's 48 cents a unit. It was there a year or two ago. It was massive. It was a problem.
Now it's reduced since that.
Serious problem.
It's reduced since that.
It's down to about 30 odd cents a unit now.
Right, but it's still a lot of money.
It's still a lot of money, yeah. But costs are just, but it's not even it's people's costs. If people don't have expendable money, they can't spend. I feel sorry for people now because the mortgages now, they should be called eternal mortgages. Yeah. They're just going on for eternity. I mean, I don't think it's right. I can't understand it. I mean, the business model between the government and the bank is you pay your mortgage forever, and to do that, you have to pay tax forever. So they're going to push out the pension to beyond. You're going to have to work till people in the civil service can get mortgages until they're 70. I don't know, is it right to be paying a mortgage up to 70 years of age?
I don't think so. I
can't get my head around it. I'm constantly, but I have it in my head that it's between the government and the bank. They've it worked out. You keep paying tax to pay your mortgage up to 70, and the average price of a house now, I don't know, is 400 odd thousand. I mean, people want a roof over it. They don't want a jail sentence.
I know, but what is the result of that? I mean, if you take Mullinahone, for example, are youngsters leaving? Are they leaving in droves at this point?
Well, like they want to stay in Mullinahone, but still you won't rent a house and you won't buy a house in Mullinahone now. When it comes to property, it's a metropolis. You can't. If you look up myhome.ie daft, there's nothing for sale. Nothing to rent. You know, planning. I mean, I don't know about these planning laws. I mean, where does it suit? Does it suit Dublin? Does it suit Mullinahone? I mean, our population is like that, and their population is like that, and it's one at all.
And has Mullinahone become a sort of a commuter area for Kilkenny now to some degree?
Oh, it would, yeah. Waterford, Cashel, Clonmel, Thurles, yeah. Yeah, it's in a great location. You're on main roads a minute.
Of course, yeah. But that's driving up prices locally then. That's driving up prices locally then, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think it's nationwide though, Fran. I mean, the price of their average house in Ireland is chronic now. But there's no expendable. It's the planning laws. The planning laws have really galvanised this problem.
In what way? Explain that to me.
Well, if you grant planning outside, it's next to near impossible to get a house outside of a housing estate in a town. And then the cost of building has gone so much that builders don't want to build because they're watery whether they're going to sell them or not. At some point, there'll be a downturn, and no one wants to get caught. And when you're in the middle of a big development, you need to be able to knock them on. I mean, if the cost of building is so severe at the minute that builders they're nervous that they're going to get caught.
Yeah, because God knows we saw that back in the noughties, of course. You're in an ideal position because, you know, as somebody who's behind a bar, you hear the general conversation that people are having. And are people...
Imagine 300,000 people in energy arrears. That's unbelievable.
But are you hearing that in the pub, that people are finding it difficult?
Definitely. I mean, people, say my kind of age category, if you like, most likely have kids in college, and I have 2 kids in college. And it's expensive. I don't know how it's done. You know, some people have more than 2 kids, 3 kids, maybe at college at one time. But I think the gold medal of dollar is what they'll get off the government next. We'll be paying a living tax.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how parents can pay if they have multiple children in college or youngsters in college. I don't know how they can afford that. I mean, it's...
No, but we're paying more. I mean, like 23% of more is more. We're paying tax upon tax now. And look, to be honest, I am saddened and sickened that Diageo put up the price of the pint. But as I said, the winner there is Diageo are putting up their margin, and the government are getting 23% of more is more. And the government, and I know, and say, like, I don't know, it's demoralised now because we're on an upward trajectory as regards inflation. It reminds me of the time we changed from the euro, from the pound to the euro.
Yeah.
Everything just, and when we came out of COVID, it's the same way. They put up the minimum wage, and to counteract it, inflation goes up even more. So people are getting the money and then it's been taken off them the day after. It's not like the prices are saying the same. People in business, when the minimum wage goes up, they have to charge more to pay.
I think we just lost TJ there just from a technical point of view. So Leanne, I know, is going to work at getting him back, because what he's saying is very, very interesting indeed. One of our listeners saying when they're getting the free meals they're giving out, and you can have a choice every week, so every day you could have a different dinner. Are people ever satisfied? It says here, when we were going to school there was nothing like that, and it's a very interesting point. Indeed, that there is a choice there at least. Let's go back to TJ. TJ, I beg your pardon. We lost you just as you were talking there. You did mention the increase. Are people unhappy that the prices are increasing? Are they deciding, well, I just can't afford to come out and have a couple of pints anymore?
I think it's just gone in the way from the ones that can afford it, and the ones that can't. Yeah. And it's an extra, shall we say. But, it's just with everything. And what's affordable now is food affordable. That's the way it's gone now. You fill the shopping trolley now, and it's serious.
Yeah.
I don't like to touch on the speed thing, but I just like to say, I do feel sorry for the people. I pass through Grange Walk often about 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, and I see the speed ban is there just before the village, there once or twice a week on average. And if you were doing like 5 kilometres an hour, a little along, your fine is €160, which would have filled a food shopping trolley not so long ago. Now, I'm not advocating for speeding or anything like it, but just a lapse of concentration, 5 kilometres, maybe under 10 kilometres, should it be a graduated fine? Because the fine was €80, now it's 160. To the people that are going to work at 8 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, I don't know, do they even have that at the end of the week to give? I mean, they're lucky to just to pay the mortgage and everything else. I mean, should the speeding fine be graduated? Now, and I'm not advocating for speed or anything like it, but just a little lapse of concentration, 5 kilometres an hour. You're not doing 10, 15, 20 kilometres an hour or handbrake turns going out the road. But I do feel sorry for people going to work in the morning, and it's just coincidental that it's there around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's there at that time.
You know what will be said to you about that is, we've so many deaths on the road, and it's mostly speed related and all of that.
Yeah. But should it be? No, but it should be fined. But should it be graduated?
Well, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Maybe graduate. Maybe say if he was doing 5 kilometres, maybe an €80 fine, and if he's well in excess, well, then he gets his 160, maybe penalty points, and maybe off the road if it's reckless driving.
And in that area, TJ, do you feel like it's fish in a barrel to some degree? Is it?
Well, I feel like it's fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
I do. Now, look, to be honest with you, I've no penalty points. My wife is none. My son is none. My daughter's none. We're not advocating for speeding or anything like that. But I'm just saying, the answer to everything is more money. But whether people have more or not is the question.
Yeah, but you see, you can have 2 people working now, and they could have, very good jobs, but they still might be at the pin of the collar,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, it's like if you borrow 400 1,000 for a house, you're giving back 800 plus.
Yeah.
You know, you could be giving back 900. I know there's a new financial institution coming from Austria buying the permanent TSB, and I'd say to anybody that's thinking about buying a house at the minute, hang on and wait and see what happens.
And are you saying that more competition in the market? Is that it? Yeah.
More competition, yeah. More competition. But Fran, overall, I am disappointed with and I won't be increasing my profit margin.
You won't be?
I won't be increasing my profit margin, but but still in all, business has to be sustainable, and I have to fill up my food trolley, and kids have to go to school or whatever, and I have to carry on in a family way, and my business has to be. This is my sole income, so it has to perform.
But you're not going to follow the
Tipperary and fine.
You're not going to follow the Diageo increase then, is it? Is that what you mean, TJ?
No, I'm just going to cover that cost. That 7 cent plus that 10 cent. I'm going to have to cover that cost, but I won't be adding to that.
Okay,
so 10 cent.
Yeah, so the VAT thing that would bring that up to what, 20 cent or something?
To be 10 cent. But I suppose if Diageo's business costs about, the cost of pubs have running a pub has gone up. But as I said, on a personal note, not speaking for anybody else, but I'd be just leaving it at the 10.
All right, well, good to talk to you, TJ. And something else, just before I let you go, you and I would have spoken an awful lot during COVID. And like me, when you look back to those years, is it almost surreal in some way? Are there times when you wonder, did that actually happen?
Yeah, it is surreal, Fran, and it's hard to believe it. I think it was 19, I'm 26, that's 7 years ago. To be honest with you, it seemed like the end of the world for me personally and it kind of brings it home the importance of your mental health and everything. And I just like to say, people are under a lot of pressure. And I see Mullinahone there, CJ Kickham's raised €1,200 for Seesaw there at St. Stephen's Day. It was a lovely gesture, because I think people are under their mental health, and the strain they're under nowadays is immense. And just, when money starts to go, it's hard for people to keep it together. But they're trying times for people, because every day is more, so fair play to people, and people, they're great to keep going.
Aren't they just? TJ, a pleasure as always. You look after yourself, and thank you. Thanks, TJ. Thanks,
Fran.
Bye. That's TJ McInerney of the wonderful TJ Maxx pub in Mullinahone, speaking to us there. 1800 938 007.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now we continue with our conversation around the dance halls and the show bands. Patricia joins me. Good morning to you, Patricia.
Hello, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, and lovely to talk to you today. Your family had a lot of connections with the show bands, Patricia.
We did, yeah. A lot of my brother and my sister and a lot of cousins in show bands, yes, down through the years.
And your sister was Candy?
Candy, yeah, Candy of Dynamite.
My God.
Limerick, yeah.
Go on.
Yeah,
terrific performer altogether. Really, really good.
Yeah, she's still giving out a turn now and again.
Does she indeed? Well, would you send my best wishes to her, indeed. She was a fantastic performer. Did you ever perform yourself, Patricia?
I'll tell you, Fran, you had my brother on there a while back talking about the fit-up companies.
Oh, God, yeah, I remember well. Yeah.
So I had my life on it. My young life was spent on the stage.
Was it traipsing around the country?
That's it. But I never had any draw, as they say, to go with a show band or anything. I would have loved to be in a theatre in the background, but it didn't happen that way. But no, I didn't make it. No, my brother was in a band in Northern Ireland for quite a few years. He was up there with a few bands. He toured with Leo McCaffrey. I don't know if you ever heard
Of course I did, indeed.
He was with him. He left him because they were going to America and Leo wanted him to cut his hair and he wouldn't cut his hair.
I love a man of principle. Indeed. But of course, the fit-ups were the precursor to the show bands. If you know what I mean, Patricia. You know, they supplied the entertainment to the towns and villages around the country, and that was taken over by the show bands to some degree. Then.
Well, and it worked hand in hand as well, because we used to be outside the marquees with our fun fairs and shows years ago as well. You know, people walked through the show to get into the marquees years ago as well. You know, so we worked hand in hand with them a lot of places as well.
Yeah. Were they great times? Because we're hearing some great stories, great memories. Were they great times, Patricia?
Oh, of course they were, yeah. Of course they were. Like, I remember it so well. Like, I was in my element in the late 60s, I say. And it was a great, brilliant time, you know. It was just everything was so good. Happy times. And I mean, if you had 10 shillings to go out for a night, you were out for the night, and that was it. You know
how things have changed. Where that's concerned. Did you have favourite bands? Did you have bands you'd go back and see again?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, Joe Dolan, of course, obviously.
Yeah. He was the king. He was the king, wasn't he? He really was.
He was. Yeah. The Pressed Men.
Oh,
the Memory.
What a band! Yeah.
You know, it was brilliant bands. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, great
the
years.
Sands.
Yeah.
Another good band, you know, they were great bands.
The Sands. Tony Kenny was in the Sands, wasn't he?
Sands, that's right. Yeah, Tony Kenny. But I have another cousin, Derek McCormack. I don't know if you ever heard of him or the rest of them. He used to play with Barleycorn, and he played with Dermot O'Brien as well.
Oh, Derek was a great friend of mine. I didn't realise. Yeah, are you serious? Yeah. I think Derek was probably the best ballad singer ever in this country.
A beautiful voice.
My God, I can't believe
and
that.
Another one then was George Gibson of the Regal Show Band years ago.
Course,
I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
And then and Sandy Kelly, another one.
Sure, Sandy, of course, was involved in all the fit-ups as well with her family. And
well, yeah. And lately, then I don't know if you know Gavin McCormack up in Kildare. He's the lead guitar. He does a lot with the Queen Orchestral and the ABBA Orchestral up in the Three Arena.
Oh yes,
he's the lead guitarist up there all the time, and he produces a lot of that.
Oh, very good.
Another cousin.
You're well connected, Patricia, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Do you have
memories of show bands?
Do you have trouble convincing younger people, though, about those days?
I don't know if you're even interested anymore, you know what I mean? It's only as they get older. My grandchildren, as they get older, they'll ask me questions about it, you know, and that. But it's hard to describe it.
Yeah.
I can't describe how great a time it was, for me anyway, you know, growing up in it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to be in it today.
I'd say it's a struggle for younger bands today and young artists trying to start off. It's a real struggle.
I have a nephew doing the rounds now in the pubs and that one way around. He's doing that and he's doing very well, but he's living up there in Capmore. And actually, Candy or Yvonne, my sister, her daughter is in a band up in Kilkenny called Monroe.
Right. Well, it's great it's great to know the next generation are still treading the boards. Anyway. Yeah.
But talking about show bands, I mean, the marquees long ago, I know they were a death trap for bands. But it was a great thing to go to. We used to love going to marquees years ago, you know, as dancers, to say, as punters. But and I mean, I've been in some fantastic halls around the country, ballrooms. Like the Flamingo in Ballymena was a beautiful place.
I wasn't in it. Was it indeed the Flamingo?
Yeah, it was fabulous. Yeah, the Flamingo in Ballymena, fabulous place. Yeah, I saw a lot of big bands, a lot of international bands there actually as well. But and Court Rush, and then of course there was the marquees. Then in the summer up in Mayo were great as well. You know, they had the huge marquees in Mayo because they out in the wilderness. Did you ever go to? I only played in it once, but the famous Pontoon Ballroom. Did you? Yeah. That was an incredibly large place, wasn't it? Huge. I'd say that would have held about 3,000 people. I would imagine. Sure, a lot did them times. You know, a lot of them did. When I saw Gloria, first time I saw Gloria singing, she was only after starting, and that was in Drumshanbo. And I think it was her first week with the band. And I think there was 3,000 people that were staying in the ballroom that night. You couldn't move, but you still enjoyed it.
Isn't it,
you know,
isn't it incredible?
enjoyable.
Patricia, I was delighted to talk to you today, and thanks for sharing those memories with us, Patricia. Great to talk to you. My best to your family. Thank you.
Indeed. Can I just say before we
Of course
go on,
you can.
I wish my husband a happy wedding anniversary today, or yesterday it was, but just 53 years married.
53 years.
Yeah.
And what's the secret of 53 years, Patricia?
Oh, let me win all the time. Just say yes.
Well, my best to your husband as well. Patricia, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Patricia there. Patricia Whitney speaking to us from Cllr this morning. Back in just a moment.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tipfm.com.
And you're very welcome back. Still getting loads in about the dance halls and the show bands. We'll get back to it very soon. But right now, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by John McCormack, who's the Crime Prevention Officer for the county. Good morning to you, John, and good to see you. A lot of stuff I want to talk about, but can I go back first of all to that incident that happened in Cashel? It was late Sunday night into the early hours of Monday morning. What can you tell us about that, John?
I suppose, Fran, just in relation to that incident, I suppose it's an incident that was it's there in the public. There has been a number of arrests made in relation to it, but I suppose it's a live investigation, and I suppose we're appealing for information, I suppose, from the public or anybody that has information in relation to it, or any footage and phones and that as well, to contact the Gardaí and Cashel Garda Station and come forward with any information that they have to try and progress that.
Very serious incident, and I know you're taking it very seriously.
Yes, very serious incident, yeah.
All right, a number of things to talk about. Burglaries, first of all, and Operation Thor, I suppose, as well.
Yeah,
John.
I suppose I just want to, this time of the year, just come back in the new year, I suppose, just that we don't get complacent in relation to our security and the security in our homes and that, and burglaries. Burglaries is just the one I wanted to talk about. Operation Thor is still in place, and I suppose it's a number of patrols in selected areas, I suppose, intelligence-led policing, I suppose, selecting locations where these patrols are taking place. They have led to a number of arrests in recent times, and there are several people before the courts in relation to those as well. The good news is, Fran, I suppose, is burglaries in the Cllr Tipperary division are down 31% from 2024. So that's a big number. That's very good, crime-wise. But I suppose what I would see that from, I suppose, is that people are getting better at securing their property. They've more, I suppose, using the alarms, keeping the gates closed,
yes.
All those bits and pieces, I suppose, And I suppose just for people out there, I suppose the majority of burglaries, 95% of burglaries take place in unoccupied homes, and they occur between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. in the daytime.
I always find that so hard to believe. That it's we all worry about the night time, but this is during the day when we're at work. And
people are out and about, you see, and people go in, they're rushing out in the morning time there as well. I suppose another statistic is, I suppose, a lot of these burglaries are taking place through unlocked doors. It's the front doors is unlocked. There was a figure there last year where the majority of the burglaries were through the front door, and the front door had been left unlocked. So I suppose we're appealing to people, I suppose, to lock all doors and windows. If you have the house alarm, use the house alarm.
Even during
during the daytime, Whenever you're going out and leaving the house unoccupied, turn on the alarm. Like the burglar loves the signs of unoccupancy. That the house is vacant and that there's nobody around and the gates are open and the lights are off. That if you are going away, turn on some timer switches or have lights on in selected areas, or ask neighbours to come in and turn on lights for you as well. Just make the house look lived in. It's an easy opportunity. They want, the majority of them are opportunists, and they're looking for an easy place. So don't make it easy for the burglar, I suppose.
And speaking of making it easy for them, I mean, many of us with the car keys or whatever, we come in maybe after work, we throw the keys on the hall table. They're quite visible often as well. These are the little things, but they could be very important. Yeah, they're
very important, I suppose. Store your keys safely. Don't leave your keys where they can be fished through a letterbox, or where they're just inside the hall door. The door is open, somebody opens the door and takes the keys. Your car is outside. And I suppose I'll touch on it a bit about keys, I suppose, as well. And never leave the keys in your car. If you're parking your car outside your home, don't leave the keys in the car. Lock your vehicle and ensure, I suppose, that those keys are secure. Even at times, if you're more comfortable with it, bring your keys up to the bedroom with you and leave them on the locker at night. Cash, John. Yeah, I suppose people were asking people, I suppose, not to store any large amounts, keep any large amount of cash at home, I suppose, and don't keep cash. I think people are getting better at that, becoming more cards, credit cards and that as well. But don't store any cash or keep any cash in your home.
Right. So burglaries are down. What about theft from cars and people interfering with cars?
In the last couple of months, Fran, we've noticed a number of thefts have taken place across the division, I suppose, in relation to thefts from vehicles, I suppose, at night. These crimes have occurred late at night and the early hours of the morning, when people are, I suppose, in bed. Typical, I suppose, MO is that a car will drive into the estate and a couple of suspects will get out. They'll search what cars are in the estate, and they're in some cases they're getting hits. Their cars, they're finding the cars are left open, and unfortunately, on occasions as well, Fran, they're finding that the keys are left in the cars, and the cars have been taken. So I suppose our advice is to people, I suppose, is ensure that when you get out of your car, make sure the car is locked. Take the keys in, which, as I just said a minute ago. But before you go to bed at night, ensure your car is locked. Don't make it easy for the thief.
Yeah, and to be conscious of that all the time. Have you had some prosecutions around that?
We have, yeah. We had a great case there recently where members of the Operation Tor were on patrol and they came across a vehicle. They took a chase, but they arrested. They arrested one male, and he was charged before the courts in relation to a number of thefts that have from vehicles that have taken place in recent times. So that was a very good detection. In the early hours of the morning, there's members in North Tipperary. Yeah.
Just off air, we were talking about bogus traders and bogus callers. How big an issue is that, John?
Fran, I've been on here plenty of times before, and I've spoken about this a lot. But people are continuing to employ bogus callers or cold callers to houses, where they're people offering their services as contractors, or to repair damage that's carried out in a house and that. But they're they're still picking up. They're still easy targets out there. The public there's no research being carried out in relation to the person that's carrying out the work. They in some cases, I suppose, they come and they offer a service. They give you a price, and I've come across cases there recently where the homeowners have actually given them the money. They've paid them for the works before the works were completed, before they started. Right. And in some cases, what will happen is these tradesmen, they're bogus. They'll start the work and they'll leave your home. They won't return. The mobile number, the contact number you have for the person, it's not answering anymore, and they have your money. So I suppose I'm appealing to people again there, not to employ people, have them check out the person that's going to, get a reference on somebody else, ask somebody, or ask them, where have you worked before? Did you work in the locality? Ensure that they're genuine, bona fide workers.
And what is attractive about them? Is it a case that they're doing things? Well, they're saying that they'll do a job for lesser money than would normally be paid. Is that what's making it attractive?
It's partly, I suppose, Fran, and I suppose there is a lot of employment, people in employment, and there's less people to do these small jobs around the house that we think. And somebody arrives on then, and they have a van or a truck, and they say, trees, it could be tree surgeon, or it could be, offering grounds work, roofing, carpentry. Anybody can paint any sign on the side of a van and, pretend to be something that they're not. These people are, they're deceiving the public in the skills that they have. So they're getting in and they're getting the jobs.
I mean, what you have in your notes is what we should look to really remember. If it sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, it is, Yeah, you're better off to, wait, have your inquiries made, get someone genuine, get somebody local. You're leaving the work local. Where these people are coming from, like, there's loads of work for them as well, in their own location, in their own locality. But they're travelling out to get
right, so you have to ask yourself why. I presume, I mean, is it the case that if this happens to somebody, they might feel a bit stupid, a bit ashamed about it all?
Yeah.
And maybe they're not reporting it, but you would like people to report.
Yeah, friend, we'd ask anybody, that has been caught in relation to this, don't feel ashamed, don't feel embarrassed about it, to come and to report it on Garda Síochána. Make a report. It's never too late to make a report, but to report it, and don't be embarrassed about it. But we'd ask people to look out for each other as well. If your neighbour is there, if you've an elderly person or somebody that's vulnerable in your community, and you notice that these people have pulled up and are offering their services and maybe going into the house, going into your next door neighbour, make inquiries, or talk to their relatives, ask somebody to come and just check it out, make sure they're okay. Go in and just ask them, are they okay? And that they're not being forced or being pushed into having works carried out that they don't want. Another one that came across there recently, Fran, was a company where they were saying they were working for the county council, and they were doing a bit of tiring, and they had some tire left over. Now, this doesn't happen, Fran, and I want everybody to understand that this doesn't happen. There's no such thing as tire left over, and we'll put the tire down for a good price for you. That doesn't happen. So please, these people are bogus, and not to engage with them, and to report their presence in your area to Garda Síochána.
It's so brazen, though, isn't it? So they're saying they're doing work for the county council, and they have a bit of tire left over.
And just offering it. It's
so brazen.
Yeah,
it really
people are they're looking at, and all it is, it's just a bit of tar and throwing a bit of gravel on it. It's not a good genuine. It's not. Yeah. It's not good workmanship.
Yeah, and getting back to what you said about the older people, I feel for older people, because again, going back to what you were saying, it is hard to get tradespeople. It is hard to get people to do your shoots and do the bits and pieces. If you're living alone, if you're an elderly person, you might say, "Yeah, this is an opportunity for me."
I know. Yeah. I know, yeah. And I suppose that's what we're asking. I suppose it's, community again, and I suppose, my own parish and the parishes and communities around the county, Fran. There is good people in the community, and there's community groups there as well, so there's somebody in your area who'll be able to advise you, who might be able to do that job for you, so just make inquiries and, ask around. And I suppose look out for your elderly neighbour, the person that's near your relative, would say, and just see, is there a few jobs that they need done, and there's
of course
a handout.
The whole business of the online fraud as well, is that getting more sophisticated? Are you hearing more about that as well?
Yeah, all the time, Fran. There's one that's out this week, and I'd just like to bring it to the attention of listeners as well. There's an online fraud at the moment, whereas the caller will call your mobile number, but they're calling from a WhatsApp phone call, but they have the Garda crest or the Garda logo on the phone. So
go on.
Yeah. So I suppose they're looking for bank details and requesting bank details. So I just want to remind the public that Garda Síochána will never ring anybody on a WhatsApp call looking for your bank details or any of your personal details. So I suppose just if anybody gets a call in relation to that, hang up straight away.
Right, but there's an example of how sophisticated all of this is becoming.
Yeah. It's all, it's just online. It's people behind in screens just looking for an easy target.
There's a huge amount of it last year for some reason or other. It's really escalated last year, didn't it?
Frauds are probably increasing. I suppose crimes that maybe a reason as well in relation to burglaries. Crime is changing. It's going more to online and frauds.
Yeah. And is the force staying with that? I mean, are you training up your own people in these various areas as well, John, that you can deal with all of this?
We are, Brian. Yeah, it's I suppose it's fraud, and that they're constantly evolving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I suppose we're moving with it as well. You know what I mean? But it's just getting on top of it, and I suppose it's about like this, getting opportunities to educate the public about not falling for any scams. And how many times did your phone ring during the Christmas that it was a UK number, or someone from Australia or somebody from Germany, that you know what I mean, and they're looking for details, or it's a pre-recorded message looking for details off you. So I suppose we're asking people not to engage with any of these calls, to hang up, But hell, talk about it. Don't be ashamed if you got caught, If don't be ashamed to speak about it. They're out there, you might help somebody else, So.
And where we started talking about the theft from cars and the burglary, are you frustrated at times about how silly we can be? And I'm putting myself very firmly into that category. We're careless about our security at times, aren't we?
We are, Fran, but I think we're getting slightly. I think we're getting better at it. Yeah. I think we're getting better at it. Some of the crimes would, you'd say, my God, that, but. How did that happen? How did that occur? But we can't be victim blaming either. We have to support as well. But but I suppose we're asking people if there is anything suspicious in that, in your areas, or just something that's, something that you feel needs to be reported. Don't leave it to somebody else to report it. Make that call yourself. Don't think that if there's people calling house to house and that make the call. Phone it in, call it in. Don't expect that your neighbour down the road is going to call it in, because you might save your neighbour down the road, but they might do the very same thing for you in the future.
You told us in the past you are available to communities if they want advice around theft and crime prevention and the like, John. Is that still the case?
That's still the case. That's always the case. Yeah, the crime prevention service is there, I suppose. And I have I've had a number of meetings, I suppose, throughout the county during the in the last couple of months as well. But if there's any communities or any groups out there that would like to get a talk on crime prevention, I suppose, and basically it goes through burglaries advice, security advice, advice even from your, on your lands and that, farming sector and that as well. Anything to do with that as well. We're here to offer that service.
All right, good to see you as always, John. Thanks very much indeed for that. John McCormack there, who's Crime Prevention Officer for County Tipperary. News and information's on the way.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome along to the final hour of Tip Today. Now, rumours of conflict in the Beckham family were confirmed this week following Brooklyn Beckham's explosive social media post. The oldest son of the celebrity power couple made headlines with a string of posts on his Instagram story in which he accused his parents of controlling narratives in the press about his family and trying to ruin his relationship with his wife. Now, while it's the talk of the showbiz world this week, family conflict and estrangement are not uncommon. Well, Karl Melvin is a psychotherapist who specialises in family estrangement, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Karl.
Hey, Fran, how are you?
Very well, and thank you so much for coming on with us today. Your own experience of family struggles, your own story is fascinating in itself, Karl.
Yeah, I mean, I don't talk about it too much publicly, but yeah, I am estranged from one parent. I have been for quite a long time, and that is what brought me into the therapeutic space. I never would have gone to therapy before, and that's gone back to 2008. And I went to therapy. I really enjoyed that. I made the decision to re-educate, and then I started practice working with clients in 2011. But estrangement followed me into that realm as well, and I kind of inadvertently came to specialise in working with adults who are in the middle of really complex family conflicts, where the outcome of that conflict is estrangement in its different forms. And bearing in mind that no two estrangements are the same. Families are complicated. How they fall apart are complicated as well.
But there are times when estrangement is the only option. Is that fair to say, Karl, for your own healing, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the family dynamics and what's happening. Unfortunately, not every estrangement is a product of abuse, but very often abusive behaviours are part of that, or avoidance behaviours, or piling on unrealistic expectations. Like, they take a toll. Now, every individual has their own threshold in terms of how much they can take, but you're right, some people, the dynamics are taking such a toll on their mental health, on their general sense of happiness, on their autonomy, their freedom in their life, that they feel like they have no choice but to pull back. Now, anyone I know who was voluntarily estranged in that they chose it, they didn't choose it overnight. It was a very long process of, and often a very torturous process of teasing out distance, trying to decide, should I do this? What are the consequences of doing this? Is it safe to make this choice? What will happen a year from now, 2 years from now? So it's never a quick, easy decision which is why often people who choose it are often labelled as selfish. That's never the case with my own clients. Most of them really, they did feel like they had no choice, and they did try to make changes within the family beforehand. They may have tried to approach, whether it's their parents or their sons and daughters or their siblings, and confront the issues, but their family is just so locked into a certain bias, certain view, a certain experience, and they won't move past it to actually create a healthier degree of closeness between each other.
And is it often the case that the people who come to you, Karl, would be blaming themselves, and that shouldn't be the case?
Yeah, I mean, estrangement and shame goes hand in hand. Okay, many people, this is not just in my own clinical practice, it's featured in most of the research. A lot of estranged people feel a great deal of shame for several reasons, one of which is, in Ireland we have really strong family values. We understand the importance of family, but if someone's situation contradicts that, they automatically feel bad about themselves. They feel like they're a failure because they don't line up, but they don't meet up to the expectations of society has in general. But it's also the issue that we often internalise the behaviours of our families as well. So if our family is a very critical dynamic, if it's raising voices, put downs, again, piling unrealistic expectations, we are only human. We will absorb a lot of that, internalise it, and it does make us feel bad about ourselves. So it isn't the estrangement itself can make us feel bad, but it's also the dynamics that we came from. And this is very much the legacy of these dysfunctional families and the legacy of estrangement itself. And that's a huge part of the work I'd be doing with my own clients, trying to help them work through that and connect with their own humanity and the sense of who they are, a healthy sense of who they are as an individual.
And is part of the difficulty that they might be dragging that dynamic you referred to there that they would have experienced into their own families, and maybe they begin to recognise that in some way?
100%. It absolutely has the potential to contaminate so many areas of life, whether it's someone parenting their own kids, their relationship with their partner. And I would say a lot of people where there's intimacy struggles because the partner wants to help but just doesn't know how to, or the partner simply cannot grasp what their husband or wife is going through with their own family because they themselves had a healthy family dynamic. But it isn't just exclusive to there. I've had clients who have problems in work because they're distracted, because they're constantly ruminating about the situation. They're not paying attention to work. They might find themselves making mistakes in work, and that's adds another level of distress for them because they're already devastated by the family situation, but now it's having a negative effect on another really important aspect of their lives, which is their career.
And then you take what's happening with the Beckhams, and here you have issues, family issues, unfolding in front of the world. So that particular dynamic, I can't imagine what that must be like.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I wrote a book called Navigating Family Estrangement a couple of years ago, and I really cite the celebrity aspect as well, because there's so many dimensions to it, Fran. I mean, number one, celebrities are obviously very sensitive to their public image, and they're constantly curating a positive image about themselves in the public mainstream. But then, but behind closed doors, there could be a very different dynamic, a great deal of problems which are not addressing. And I do feel like that's potentially one of the causes of the Beckham issue. I've never met them, obviously, so I don't have any new insight, but it does seem like that's what Brooklyn was stating, that, you know, he feels like he's been put under a great deal of pressure and his life was controlled and curated to kind of go along with the brand. But also, it makes it very, when an issue like this is aired so publicly, it makes the option of reconciliation further down the road a lot harder. Now, reconciliations are hard at the best of times. That process could take months, sometimes even years. But when it's out in the public domain, then you don't really get to move past it. You don't get to forget about it because it's constantly brought up, particularly by mainstream media, who will constantly poke at celebrities looking for a reaction, just to drive content, drive sales. And again, you don't get any reprieve. And I do think, like, issues have to be discussed, but in the most appropriate and most discreet manner. I don't think on social media is the best platform because it makes it very hard to recover. There's other high-profile estrangements as well. For example, the royal family, and again, so much of that was aired publicly. I can imagine how hard it was to come back from that when so much really private and intimate moments are shared for the public space. It really, again, I get that these things have to be discussed, they have to be addressed, but there's ways of doing it. I'm not sure posting on social media is the most appropriate way.
And many of us looking in at either the royal family or the Beckhams or whatever, we see families with everything. I mean, you know, enough money to buy all of the luxuries to make life really, really comfortable for them. And yet they have issues that are similar to issues of people in working class situations, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Estrangement doesn't make a difference if you live in a castle or a cardboard box, Fran. It affects all of us in all different ways. And it just speaks to the really complex nature of families, and from a psychological and a biological and social nature, what we need of each other, what we expect of each other, what we were taught in terms of communication and expression. Some families overshare, some families undershare. Some people's, it's normal for them to not address issues. In Ireland, we have a great culture of pushing issues under the carpet. But it's not exclusive to Ireland; it's global. I'm all over this country. Money doesn't solve deep-rooted emotional distress. It just acts as a buffer sometimes, and it softens the blow occasionally. Sometimes it's a distraction. It doesn't get to the root cause.
And again, to stay with the Beckhams, because they're all over the headlines at the moment. If you put a narcissist in the middle of all of this, and it strikes me that Victoria probably is, if you add that to the equation, what is the outcome of that then?
Yeah, and occasionally narcissists, family members come to me and they will say some member of their family is a narcissist. It's almost a hopeless cause, Fran, to be quite honest with you, because the narcissists don't change. Now, there is some research that suggests a small percentage might do, but generally speaking, they don't. They lack the empathy and the emotional connection that's required to actually have a healthier relationship with people. So they become so consumed by themselves, their own image, their own needs, that becomes all-encompassing, and everyone in the family is meant to conform to that. But again, a byproduct of that is avoidance. Really important core issues won't get addressed because it upsets the harmony that the narcissist may have created, and the image that they're trying to curate again to protect themselves. I'm not familiar with Victoria. The one thing I will say, though, I did actually watch the documentary that she had made, and
yes.
one thing that was quite striking for me was there was a moment where she was at home, I think it was with her mother, and she was casually dressed, and obviously the cameras are there, and she felt the need to kind of state why she was casually dressed. Like, well, this is what I wear when I'm at home. I'm like, why were you so worried what people thought? This is obviously a documentary about you, and she's in the fashion business. But she obviously felt, I need to tell people why I'm so casually dressed. This isn't what I normally wear. But just that concern for how you're perceived, it is so damaging. And you can never keep up with it. There's no way you can maintain a perfect 100% image. It just isn't. It isn't sustainable. It certainly isn't human. It's going to get ruptured at different points. Maybe Brooklyn reached a point where he felt that he couldn't take it. Again, I don't know the family. I'm just kind of theorising.
Of course, yeah. But I remember, each time she had a pregnancy, she felt this need to be back to this incredible size that she was when she was a teenager in the pop group, and I can only imagine the effect on her mental health with that sort of pressure as well, Karl.
But also the message it puts out to other women.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not, these people are trendsetters, they are influencers, and it puts out a very bad, unhealthy message to everybody else. But you're right, like, it's such a toll to give birth to a child, and then in itself, and that's quite a long recovery process, but then it's the fact that she's also trying to get back, and she is quite a slight frame from what I've seen, which means that's actually deprivation. You're actually eating less, not even more. It's not like it's a healthy kind of eat well and go to the gym. I would imagine, again, I don't know, but I'd imagine it's more about eating less, which can't be healthy for the body or the mind. Yeah, and promoting the whole family as a brand as well, it takes away from what a family should be, really, Yeah, exactly. The family, almost the family function almost becomes secondary to the family image. And everything, the image has to take precedence, and it becomes obviously very performative, very based around how we look, what we do, as opposed to genuine, sincere issues within the family. And like, every family struggles in their own way. There is no perfect family. Some struggle more than others, some need more support than others. You just be worried about the kids really more than anybody else. Are the kids okay? And again, that will take, because celebrity is just so addictive. Of course. People, and even like low keys, like influencers, people who just have a relatively high social media following, they become obsessed by looking at their phone all the time, waiting for likes, waiting for comments, and it's just so all-consuming. I don't think it's healthy. And does that reflect itself in the people who are coming to you all of the time, Karl? Are these the issues of our generation? they're part of it. To be fair, most of my clients are really just struggling with their family and how they're being treated by their family, or how they move forward with their life, despite the fact that they may not have this family attachment that everyone else around them appears to have. One change that's happened in recent times, and it just kind of linked back to the Beckhams a bit, I'm seeing more clients coming in who are estranged from high-profile people. I have one client who was estranged from a huge star. Obviously, it's completely confidential. I'll be saying no more than that.
Yeah.
But again, it's that conflict between the public perception and what people are saying, and this person would be loved in society, and everyone thinks they're great, versus the actual lived reality and the lived experience of this person trying to relate to them. And it doesn't even have to be a celebrity. People put on masks. Someone can appear to be very nice, very caring, a great sense of humour. Publicly, when that door closes, there's some very real issues that are not being addressed. And that incongruency creates a great deal of inner conflict from our clients, because they're confused, because they're treating people this way, or maybe they're kind to me in this context, but they're being mean to me in a different context if I'm not conforming, if I'm not meeting their needs. And it creates this internal tennis match where one person wants to pull away and try to create a measure of safety, but another part would love to connect, because we are wired for connection. We want to be close to our family, because we want family to be a source of support, a place where we can forget ourselves and just be us. But unfortunately, that isn't always the case for people. Family doesn't always represent safety. But they get caught in that dynamic. Will I reconnect? When I do reconnect, actually, they're exactly where I left them. Nothing's changed. I better pull back. But I love them. I miss them. I'd love to see them again. And then they reconnect, and it's the same old. And it just goes on sometimes for many, many, many years.
Leanne and Ali printed out a lot of stuff on the Beckhams for me, but it's interesting to look back at the family photographs, and nowhere that I have now, it could be somewhere else maybe, but in the collection that I have here, Karl, Brooklyn Beckham is not smiling in any photograph. And in fact, there's one where he's with his dad, David. It should be a kind of a father and son kind of thing. David has his arm around him, but he's looking real sullen, looking down at the ground, not engaging at all.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Fran. I don't read too much into that, because you just don't know. And I mean, I know with Victoria, she had this thing where she never smiled on cameras either. Yeah. There could be an element of, no, this is a part of their image, a part of what they're putting out. Does it speak to another issue? Who knows? And again, I'm making comments here. I don't know, and nobody knows, and everyone has an opinion. Everyone is dissecting footage of videos and images. Really, we don't know what's happening. It is private for them. We may never find out, and I would argue even people within the family might know what's going on, even amongst the Beckhams, because often people will attribute different reasons and different causes for the rifts. And Beckham or Brooklyn may cite reasons within his parents might cite external reasons, which again is just quite common, attributational bias. Parents attribute external factors to the issues, whereas sons and daughters attribute the issues specifically to parents and their behaviours. So I don't personally read into pictures and videos, because we just don't know.
Your own book, Navigating Family Estrangement, is that still available to people? Because we have some interest in that here.
Yeah, you'll get it on Amazon. It was published by Routledge in 2024, but you'll get it on Amazon.
Right, so it's not just for therapists. This is for ordinary people, is it? It's an accessible resource, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, Routledge is an academic publisher, so I did have to write to that market, but I was trying to be smart when I was writing it and make it as accessible as possible. And the feedback I'm getting is that anybody can read this book. And what's actually happening is that they're dipping in and out of it. Whenever something comes up in their own life, a specific chapter might resonate, a specific resource might help them, or might frame a conversation with their partner or a friend. So it isn't a page turner, so to speak. It's a resource that people come back to over the course of their life and over the course of their estrangement.
Very good indeed. Really enjoyed the chat, Karl. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's psychotherapist Karl Melvin there. And that book, again, if you want to look it up or if you want to purchase it online, it's Navigating Family Estrangement. We'll take a break. Back in a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tip Today. Now, John G. O'Dwyer is with me, and we continue with our story of Ireland. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning indeed.
Good to see you. Are we up to Mr. Henry VIII?
We're not quite, but we will get to
we
him.
will get
we're
to
not
him.
quite.
Okay. Right.
So what you're speaking about here is the last time when we finished, the last episode, what you were speaking about is that England had about 200 years of chaos.
Yes.
There was the Robert Bruce fighting against Scotland. There was wars there. That was followed by the 120-year war, which is called the 100 Years' War. But they were fighting with France for that land. They had just solved that, and then the War of the Roses broke out over which house would hold the kingship of England. That was either the Lancastrians or the House of York. So eventually that was sort of the Battle of Bosworth, where Henry VII defeated Richard III, and then he became, for the first time, a fairly powerful monarch. That was Henry. He became Now, in the meantime, what was happening in Ireland was English law. They were supposed to be the lords of Ireland, the kings.
Yes.
But they were really the English law only ran in an area about 20 miles out from Dublin in all directions. That was called the Pale. There was then the second thing, like the Butlers and the Fitzgeralds. They were the Anglo-Norman families. They were supposed then to impose the king's rule in Ireland. They were subservient to the king. King was tied up with a lot of other things, so they more or less, a lot of them went native. They did more or less their own thing. And then if you went further west to the O'Sullivans, the McCarthys, the O'Donnells, the O'Neills, they 100% independent. So that was the situation in Ireland. Then Henry VII came in. Now he was a kind of a consensual operator, a bit more like I suppose you would look at today, Joe Biden, who didn't rock the boat too much. But just to show how powerful the Irish lords felt they were, the Fitzgeralds actually supported Lambert Simnel, who was a pretender to the throne, against Henry. And would you be, it's not talked about much, they actually brought an army over and invaded England to try and drive Henry out.
What?
They invaded England with this guy Lambert Simnel.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, they went over. Now, they were defeated. You don't hear a lot about it. Now, if that happened most of the time, the king would arrive with an army and you'd lose your head pretty quickly. The king didn't feel strong enough to take him on even at that stage. So Gerald Fitzgerald, he just pardoned him and he went back. And in fact then, they continued to be the king's Lord Deputy in Ireland. The king always depended on these powerful families. So it settled down then into a relatively calm time under Henry, but things were beginning to change. Now, like everybody other, he had to look after the succession. What does a king need? He needs an heir, Arthur. He needs a spare, Henry, and he had two daughters as well. That was to look after his succession. So now, what happened was then, you want a powerful alliance. England was being threatened by France. What about an alliance with Spain? How do you do that?
Marriage.
You marry your son to Catherine of Aragon. Now, that's the interesting thing. By our standards, total child abuse. You marry a 15-year-old Arthur to a 15-year-old Catherine of Aragon. Absolutely. And they have no choice in that matter. What happens? Arthur dies fairly soon after that. But Henry is kind of pragmatic. Okay, I got the spare. I'm now going to marry the spare to Catherine of Aragon. And so now for this, to marry your brother-in-law, you say you need a dispensation. So he had to look for a dispensation from the Pope. But the Pope's kind of okay. He's a Catholic ruler or whatever. Yeah, we'll give him his dispensation. And, the fig tree thing was that Arthur had died 6 months after the marriage, so the marriage was never actually consummated. And, now Arthur wasn't that sick or anything like that, so it's that's a bit of a figment. It gave him a handy way out, and so that was the situation there. So Henry then was the heir apparent. He became the new king.
It's so interesting with what was to come, though, that the church sort of they went along with him at this point.
Generally speaking, they did. Everything was highly political, and you wanted to keep the main rulers. You wanted to keep them on board. And remember too, the church was now facing the Reformation as well with Martin Luther. character. So you wanted as many friends as you could possibly have. And so that was the situation there. That's how Henry came in. And of course, he was completely different from his father. He was bombastic, in your face, got rid of people as soon as they, he didn't need them anymore, like chess pieces, moving them around. He was narcissistic as well as that, and probably didn't achieve an enormous amount in his life either, but he's probably the most famous English monarch ever.
Yeah, is he only famous because of all the marriages and the executions and all of this kind of thing? Are you saying to me that he wasn't effective other than that, was he?
He was effective. It depends. If you ask somebody in England, they would say he was effective because he made the first move to create a Protestant state for a Protestant people. But that's the important thing to remember. Henry was never actually a Protestant. He was a Catholic.
Yes.
The only thing he changed was he said the Pope is no longer the head of the church in England. I am the head of the church. But he made no doctrinal changes. In fact, he didn't like Lutherans at all and Protestants. In fact, he put more Protestants to death than Papists. He liked Catholics. Anybody who swore to the Pope was a Papist. He didn't like them. But he hated Lutherans as well because he thought they were anti-Catholic. So he put a lot of Lutherans and Calvinists to death as well.
So when he said he was then head of the church, are you saying he was head of the Catholic Church in England?
Yeah, head of the Catholic Church. Continued on. Only one thing changed. Of course, he was the sort of fellow who was always involved in wars, and you know yourself, if you have 6 wives, it's pretty expensive to have 6 wives. So what did he do then? He saw the monasteries. He saw a handy opportunity. Hey, I'll get rid of all the monasteries and I'll grab their land. And he said, they're corrupt, so we'll get rid of them. So he got rid of one of the strongest institutions in Britain that helped the poor. And then to keep himself in power, that's the whole thing. How do you do it? You curry favour with your friends. So what do? You divvy out the monastic land to people who have supported you. So even in Ireland, the butlers were supporting him. So the land from places like Kilcooley and that was divvied out to the butlers. So, there's method in all these guys' madness as well.
Yeah, but everybody's perception is that he became Protestant and he appointed himself head of the Protestants.
No, he wouldn't have been, and the Protestants wouldn't have welcomed him as head of the church either. The Lutherans or the Calvinists, who are the two. I mean, the Lutherans the Calvinists would be like the Presbyterians today. And in fact, he had and that continued in England. What is interesting is, England, they brought in some doctrine, but they never 100% changed their doctrine. So the Anglican Church in England, it still continued on. Catholicism is high theatre, and they have the ceremonies are high theatre, and people like that, and they didn't want to change that. So the Anglicanism has a lot of features of Catholicism, and again they would be uncomfortable with the Calvinist, the Puritan end of it, which was kind of a completely joyless existence. Well, you have all the incense and you have the singing and glorification. That's very attractive in itself to people as well. So he didn't give it up. So he would have died certainly a Catholic. There's no doubt about that, but he just said, I'm the head of the church in England. That's it.
That's incredible. How did we manage to get all of that wrong through our study of history?
Well, I don't know. I suppose he's the pantomime bad guy.
Maybe.
And you want to say, you're trying to be objective here, but where we're coming up, it's all kind of, all these English fellows were Protestant and they sold out the Pope and they did all those. And no, he was not, there's no doubt, he was not a likeable character. But then we tried to damn him with everything else.
Do you want to go and stir trouble now? Do you want to make a comparison for me?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there could be something like that. I mean, in other words, we'll say you have a really strong-minded character who dominates everybody who's around him. And of course, if you look at that, there could be a comparison there with Trump as well as that. And also getting rid of a lot of the institutions. For example, he would have abolished the monasteries. Trump would have abolished American aid as well as that, and would have the existing institutions like the United Nations wouldn't have much use for them. So I think there are certain parallels. I mean, not 100% obviously, but there are certain parallels. I mean, I don't think Melania is any danger of losing her head at the moment anyway,
So what about where Ireland is concerned then, and his influence on Ireland, specifically Henry VIII's influence on Ireland?
Well, Henry VIII's influence on Ireland then, as he got more powerful then, he decided he wanted to influence Ireland more. And the Fitzgeralds were there, and they were kind of dominating Ireland. They were the Lord Lieutenants in Ireland, and he decided, look, I want to put in my own Lord Lieutenant. He decided to put in a guy called Skeffington. He put in that guy. The Fitzgeralds didn't like it. As well as that, during his divorce, he suspected they were conniving with Charles V, who was the Holy Roman Empire, and he was the nephew of Catherine of Aragon. And that's why Henry did not get his divorce. That's the most important thing. Henry didn't get, well, it would be called an annulment, but Henry didn't get that because the Pope at that stage was a prisoner of Charles V, who was then the Holy Roman Emperor. He was also the nephew and a Catholic of Catherine of Aragon. So you can imagine him saying, "Oh, Your Holiness, I don't know if giving an annulment now to Henry would be such a good idea. In fact, and I don't think you're in any position to argue at the moment." A bit like Maduro now, trying to argue. So that would be the situation there. So Henry didn't, that was it then. When he didn't get his annulment, he then broke with the church. Now, what he was trying to say, you see, what happened initially was there was an annulment required. Firstly, I mentioned that there was an annulment required for Henry to marry Catherine of Aragon at the very start. That annulment was required. Now what Henry wanted to do, he wanted to come back and say that actually that marriage was consummated. There should never have been an annulment. That would mean then Henry never married Catherine of Aragon legally, so he was a single man, and that meant then he was in love with this young one then, Anne Boleyn, and he could marry Anne Boleyn. So it was all very complicated, but of course Charles V said, "No, Your Holiness, sorry about that now, and Henry, you can sod off." But then of course that's the huge influence, because that means then that ever since then Catholic England has been essentially a Protestant country, and with one or two small times like James has been ruled by Protestant. And in fact, you can't be a monarch in England still without being Protestant.
Did Henry set foot on Irish soil, did he?
No, he never did. No, he never came to Ireland. He was always too tied up, and he had his own wars as well as that. He had wars with Scotland as well as that, and they were fighting to hold on to France at that stage, and they were losing France as well. So it was only on the very end of his time, what he did was then he clamped down on the Fitzgeralds. So he sent, what happened was when Skeffington came to Ireland, they rebelled. He demanded then that your man Gerald Fitzgerald be taken to, he called him over to London to give out to him, to say, "What are you doing? Are you talking to Charles V?" And he held on to him over there. In the meantime, then his son, Silken Thomas, you might have heard of him, he rebelled in Ireland. The Fitzgeralds rebelled in Ireland.
So this was on to say Silken Thomas Fitzgerald discuss. So
that's it, Silken Thomas. So so he then laid siege to Dublin Castle. But Henry, even though he hadn't a lot of money and he didn't have a standing army, he raised an army under this fellow Skeffington, sent him to Ireland, and a very strong army, and he overpowered Silken Thomas, and they were all then taken to London and executed. That broke the power of the Fitzgeralds for all time, and from then on you always had an English Lord Deputy in Ireland. Now, it wasn't that it mattered much at that stage. The Fitzgeralds had a power, but the O'Neills didn't have their power broken. The Butlers didn't have their power. The Burkes didn't have it. So, Ireland still, Henry could do that. He could send an army for a short time, but he was broke. The idea of fighting a huge war in Ireland to try and take on the O'Neills, who were being supported by the Scots, who had a lot of mercenaries with them, he just wasn't up to it. So what he did was he came up with a better idea, which was surrender and regrant. So what he would do is he would call in the Irish aristocracy, and he would say to them, now look, you recognise me as king and you surrender your lands, and I'll hand them all back to you, and then we won't be fighting, we'll all be hunky-dory. And of course the lords came in and say, sure, it doesn't mean anything, he can't do anything about it anyway, so we will, of course we'll surrender. So that's why you get, for example, it's always unusual, why was, we'll say, Hugh O'Neill, why was he the Earl of Tyrone? And that's because that title was granted to him by Henry. Now, when the war broke out, eventually they renounced that title. But these fellas then went on exactly as before. Nothing changed. And then Henry eventually died off. And then what happened was he had one son, Edward, then, by Jane Seymour. Yeah. And Edward... he was a Protestant, and he tried to change to Protestantism. He tried to change over to Protestant, but he wasn't long lived. In fact, he died before he reached his majority. So it was really the regents who were trying to change over to Protestantism. And then what happened was, when he died, the eldest surviving daughter became queen, and that of course was Mary Tudor, and she was a devout Catholic, and the daughter of Catherine of Aragon. Now, she's not a particularly good exemplar, because she really did hate Protestants, and she put 300 of them to death. But she didn't, that Henry just chopped their heads off. She took them out and burned them at a stake. Wow. Absolutely. So she earned the title Bloody Mary. Now, had she been there a long time, it's likely England would have become Catholic. But she got some kind of cancer, and then she had no issue. She had no family. So she then kind of went out of the equation. She died after about 5 years, but she did really clamp down on the Protestants.
So did this change the line of succession then completely?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, it changed then to there was one other surviving daughter then. She was the daughter of Anne Boleyn. Okay, so Anne Boleyn, that's probably what did for Anne Boleyn in the end. Even though she was the young one, she never produced a male heir, but she produced a daughter, and that daughter was Queen Elizabeth I, who was brought up then, because her mother was Anne Boleyn, a Protestant. She was brought up in a Protestant. So you can see the whole thing is all chance. Who happens to be around, and it all depends on how reproductive people are and that kind of thing. So she came in. Now, initially, she was fairly moderate. She was a moderate, person. She kind of was a Protestant, went ahead, but she didn't really clamp down on Catholics. She tried to kind of build a kind of a more consensual model of doing things. But what happened then in the end was the Pope didn't like the idea that now she had changed. You see, it had gone kind of, Henry renounced the Pope, then Edward brought in Protestantism, Mary brought in Catholicism, and remember what she did was, she recognised, which Henry never did, she overruled her father and made the Pope the head of the church in England again. She wasn't the head of the church anymore, but Elizabeth came in with the Act of Supremacy and said, I'm the head of the church.
But isn't it fascinating? We talk about the history of Ireland. We cannot talk about the history of Ireland without making reference to all that was going on.
Yeah, everything. No man is an island. No country is an island. You're influenced all the time.
Isn't it
it's like being a little. Ireland is like a little boat being tossed around in a turbulent sea.
The families you made reference to then, who had their own individual areas in Ireland, were they fighting among each other?
Oh, they were, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't even have to think about that. Yeah, they were. Yeah,
and that's right. It's not like that. There was, what they all wanted to do. They had no idea of an Irish nation or anything like that. All Hugh O'Neill wanted to do was get the British off his back, and he was going to do it whatever way he could, and he was brought up largely in the British court, but now it was more to form the alliance with Spain was what he wanted, because the English were putting pressure on him. So they were, but I mean they came together in the end out of necessity, O'Neill and O'Donnell. But the O'Neills and O'Donnells were sworn enemies. The O'Sullivans and the McCarthys were sworn enemies as well. So that was the sort of thing. But remember, not only that, even the great landed families of the Normans, there was a huge battle down near Lismore, and that was a battle between the Fitzgeralds of Desmond, a great Norman family, and the Butlers. The Butlers happened to win it, and that weakened the power then of the Fitzgeralds even further. There was two branches, so the Kildares that Henry got rid of, and then the Butlers got rid of it. So the Fitzgeralds kind of went out of the equation, but they fought among themselves. I mean, there was all this territorial ambition and fighting and wars we don't hear about.
Somebody telling me about a big battle near Thurles during those times, the Desmond Rebellion, a huge cattle raid by the forces of Desmond into Tipperary, where the herd was located in Dovey near Thurles. The O'Fogartys, the Stapletons, the Purcells lost hundreds of men.
I mean, the Desmond rebellions were absolute. I mean, Munster was absolutely devastated. They'd say, about 20% of the population starved to death, because what you did was you went in and you burned all the crops so that the other army couldn't have it. You tried to starve them out. So, it was the religious wars. And remember, at this time now, what's happening is Protestantism, we'll say, if you went back even to the time of Henry VII, we were all Christians. There was English and Irish. The English thought the Irish were barbarians, but that was the only real difference. Now what you have is the first time religion is coming in, and you see Ireland as a Catholic country, and speaking a different language as well, and England as a Protestant country. So now religion is going to be an important factor in every war, which it never was before that.
Very good. All right. So what are we going to deal with next time round?
What we're going to deal with, the next time round then is we'll deal with Elizabeth, we'll deal with the war of, we'll say the 7 Years' War, which was absolutely huge. And that meant then the end of Gaelic Ireland. But again, it's much more complex, and initially Hugh O'Neill was actually a big supporter. And in the Desmond rebellions, he came down and supported Elizabeth. So, you know, that's
looking forward to it, and most informative. John, thanks very much indeed for that. That's John G. O'Dwyer.
Oh, sorry, can I just say one thing before I go?
Yes.
That I'll also be getting away from this. I'm also down, it might be a few people listening, I'll be down in Lismore talking all about the pilgrim paths of Ireland, our ancient pilgrim paths. I spoke up in Ormond there about 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. They were running around all over the hotel looking for chairs. People seem to enjoy it. I'll be talking about my own journey and discovery on the pilgrim paths, some of the light-hearted moments I had, and then the history of pilgrimage and just how difficult it was. I mean, in the old days, a pilgrimage would come into Lough Derg, something was like trying to climb Mount Everest today.
All right, brilliant. So where is that happening?
It's on in Lismore. It's on in the Heritage Centre in Lismore on Monday night at 8 p.m.
Right.
So just come along. Admission is free. It'd be great to see you.
John, thanks very much indeed. We'll take a break. Back with more.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, welcome back. Leanne's with me. Good morning to you, Leanne.
Good morning, Fran.
Were you completely surprised at the reaction to the ballrooms and the show bands?
I love it, and I love the love. I'm feeling very happy now today. The forlornness and all the unsettlingness is gone.
You love the love.
Oh, the amount of stories I've heard about people who met their partners, and it makes me so happy. They got on a bus, they went to a dance, didn't think anything of it. Someone approached them to dance, and that was it.
And that was it.
The spark. And they're so in love to this day, and the ballrooms mean so much to them, and that's where it started.
And when you compare it to nowadays, where you're scrolling to find a partner and stuff, you know.
Yeah, because I met my own boyfriend in a pub.
Yeah.
And for me, that was mad, because it was a night I wasn't meant to be out in the pub, and I couldn't believe that people actually meet in real life. Like, to me, that was such a shock. Because it's all dating apps. And when people ask me, where did you meet himself? And I say, in a pub, they can't believe it. Because that's just not a thing that happens anymore.
Isn't that incredible?
They couldn't believe,
Whereas back in the day, and the people you've been speaking to over the past week or so, the only way to meet people was to go to a dance hall.
And it's like, that time and place thing. People find it mesmerising that people actually meet by chance in real life.
Yeah. Wasn't Mary's story lovely this morning, where she spoke about her husband, and she was to meet him the following week, and then she got sick and was in the hospital and didn't meet him for a couple of weeks.
And it just started off that he was at the next dance.
I know, yeah. It's like something you'd write as a
And there's no
story.
phones to ring someone at that time to say, God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So he probably thought, sure, maybe she didn't.
Yeah, it's such memories, and I think it's the happy memories.
Isn't that great altogether? Now, in parallel to that, you've been looking at some stuff and some audio that's been that's available to us. Do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, so I've been going through the archives, and I'll have a few throughout the rest of the week, hopefully. And this one was one that really piqued my interest because it's 1967. So kind of at the peak of all of this, when all the gigs are going on. But the reporter Cathal O'Shannon took to the streets to ask women what they found attractive in men. And just comparing it to nowadays, it's just great.
What do you look for in a man physically?
Well, I like a man to be bigger than me and to have a strong character. Somebody who has a stronger character than I have.
Does he have to be a man with great big muscles and great big thighs and legs?
No. I don't like a man who's too preoccupied with his own masculinity.
What about skinny fellas?
Skinny fellas are okay, depending on their character.
Well, I'm very attracted to men who are able to sing and play music, interested in music and singing.
Do they have to be physically big men?
Oh, no, not necessarily. No, I like the people who are slim and trim.
What do you look for in a man when you want to find him attractive?
Well, I like a well-proportioned man, around 6 foot, in height and not too lean and not too fat.
Does he have to be a fella with a lot of muscle?
Oh no, I find those muscular men rather revolting to look at. You know, these fellows all muscles, you know.
What do you look for then in a man?
Well, Karl, I don't go out with a specific idea in mind, but I do find that I think certain people are attractive, and they're usually fairly slim and athletic type people, but they're not enormous, big, sort of Apollo type specimens of humanity, which I find rather disgusting looking.
Why do you find this so?
Well, the problem if you go to an Apollo place and start doing bodybuilding and so on is that you will get overweight, or you will get so developed that you look rather like what you might expect to find in a zoo, for example.
I like him to be taller than me, not too heavy.
What about muscles?
No, muscles being trying to put me off too much, you know? Certain amount, okay.
What physical attributes do you admire in a man?
Well, personally, I don't really go for the physical point of view at all. I would prefer personality. But I would prefer a man to be, well, anything from 5'10" to 6 foot, not very muscly, which I think most Irish men are very brawny and, you know, ugly looking. But I would prefer him to, if he had large bone structure, to be just fairly well covered.
Well, when I first see a man, first of all, I like to see what kind of personality he has. His physical attraction isn't that much to me.
But there must be some sort of physical build that you prefer to another sort of physical.
Medium height, not too fat, not too well built, not too muscly.
Well, a tall, very, very, well, broad man, I would say, appeals to me very much.
He has to be taller than you?
Yeah, a good bit taller.
Does he have to be athletic?
No, not really. Well, I like sort of a man's man, you know, I don't like anybody very, very vain. Well, I don't like them too fat or muscular. I think it looks a bit vulgar and overfed. I like them thin and sort of well-built, not too small, a bit like you.
That's the wonderful Cathal O'Shannon there from 1967. He was a fine cut of a man himself, actually, in his day. That's remarkable. Muscles were not the thing back in 67.
No, and at this time, obviously, in America, you'd be looking at that bodybuilding boom. So when, like, gyms were starting to pop up and it was kind of coming across, you'd have big characters. The Irish women didn't like this.
No, they didn't. They were remarkably well spoken. Everybody he had on the box
like
pop.
That touch of the transatlantic accent. It's so, I'd love it. It's very posh. It's not like the Irish now.
Yeah, not a bit. Brawny and ugly, she described. One of them described poor old Irish fellas.
And pale was another one that came up. But it's that idea, they didn't want the big muscly men that spent too much time on their appearance.
They kind of wanted them tall though, didn't they?
Tall and athletic, as in a good worker.
Yeah.
But not too concerned about their appearance.
It's incredible. So this was in parallel to what was, and you made the point yourself, what was happening in the ballrooms. So therefore, when the fellas were on one side of the ballroom and the women were on the other, is that what they were looking for in the group of fellas? Like, let me see, where's the tall, lean fella over there?
It was all height, and some of them didn't even mind what their faces looked like.
Yeah, so long as they were tall.
So much as they were tall. And I think that's that idea of if they have sons, they want strong looking sons and they want good working sons. And it's interesting because at this time as well, you were starting to see across Europe the female gyms start to pop up.
Yeah.
But they were all about keeping trim. It was all about...
Not about muscle.
Not about muscle. So machines that would vibrate or move on your calves and your arms and keep them really, really slim looking. And also at this time, that big push towards like reduced fat in diet.
Hugely interesting. It really, really is indeed. And what about young women now? Is it all about muscle now and gym bunnies and all of that kind of thing?
All about muscle. Oh, absolutely. All men are expected to have abs, to have broad shoulders, to have good calves, even good necks.
It's lucky I have all that naturally.
You're a step ahead.
Step way ahead. Well, in fairness, one of them said she liked musicians. Was that it?
She liked, a man who was into his music. So obviously tying in with the whole ballroom
boom
at the time.
Thing, yeah. Isn't it great? So, are we going to continue to hear from people and memories? Oh,
we've so many great memories. We actually have Jerry Gallagher tomorrow from the Irish Show Band's website, and he played in a lot of the show bands.
Yeah, I worked briefly with him when he played with his wife, Kim Newport, all those years ago.
So. Yeah, and we also have another Ger coming on with us on Friday about when the show bands rushed to England.
Ah, okay.
So he's living in England and he remembers that memory of during Lent, the show bands
They're
rushed
all
to
over
England.
there. So we'll be hearing about the Galtymore and the National in London and all of the mighty stuff. Leanne, thanks very much indeed for that. Leanne produced, Ali looks after content. Stephen does the time tunnel on the lunchtime show, and we'll chat to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.